It looks like we're live. When we're live, you get a double salute to greet you. What's better than a single salute? A double salute, which you only get here. Folks, this is the Weekly Spinner Rack. I'm your host tonight, Chris. I'm your host every week. And we're going to talk about the latest comic book news of the week. We're going to talk about some of the pretty interesting and fun comics that came out this week. There's a lot. If there's time, I've got like a little sketch. I'll do some inking. But we're going to start it off with a guest. And before I bring out my guest, we'll try to build up the anticipation here. I'll just do a couple quick shout outs, but there's so many folks here early. I'm just going to sort of like quickly like rattle through a bunch of these. And I appreciate you all being here. That's part of what makes it fun. I'm grateful. You're grateful for being here. No. Oh, there's a conversation. So I'm just highlighting one person again and again. And I see a bunch of comments saying that they got sent over here by my guest. So that's as good a segue as I'm going to get. Folks, I've got a guy that I definitely consider a friend at this point, a guy that I've gotten the pleasure of meeting a few times in person. Hey, it's my sister. I've gotten to meet him at conventions. We've done a few things online. Just a really cool guy that definitely knows his comic book history and trivia. I don't think I need to build it up too much because his channel's pretty darn successful. Folks, look at who's here. I'll point this way. Hey, Sal.
Hey, how are you, man?
I'm doing fantastic. And how are you tonight?
I am glowing. Thank you so much.
You are literally glowing. There's a bit of a red glow behind you.
Yeah, I figure with the subject matter, we'll go a little bit more sinister looking, a little more robotic. You know what I mean?
Is that coming out of you? Are you emitting that glow?
It's me, yeah, just from the lower extremities. But I only get to do it like once every couple of months, so I saved it for a special occasion.
Oh, I hope that you can build it back up by New York Comic Con.
Me too, man. Let me tell you, I am really excited to see you there, and I hope folks at home who are looking to check out a fun show go to New York Comic Con coming up this October. It's gonna be crazy.
I mean, it really is a pretty crazy convention. I mean, it's you have to go in kind of knowing what it is and have like an actual plan of attack, or alternately just know that it's going to be big and overwhelming and have no plan. Because if you go in with like a couple light ideas, you're going to get distracted because of just how many people and lights and stuff. But you know what? Here, we both talk about comic stuff, and I'm curious, what do you think of like conventions lately? Like, we're a little past the pandemic era where it was pretty small, but are they back to where they used to be? Have you been enjoying any conventions in particular?
Yeah, it's interesting you should ask that because I feel like we are in an interesting new era of conventions. Obviously, in the beginning, when I was growing up, I knew of comic book conventions in pop culture, but I didn't ever go to any. And I missed out on like some incredible opportunities because I live in the tri-state area in the Eastern Seaboard. And so as a result, I had access to like conventions that Jack Kirby was walking around in. I could have gone to any convention that housed any number. Like, I mean, Marvel and DC were on my back door.
Yeah.
Like I could have gone to any of these places, and I only really snuck into one of those publishing houses, and it was way too late. It was in the early 2000s was when I broke in. But
really,
but
I also snuck into like DC Comics lobby, went in like maybe like 99 or something.
No
like
kidding.
That.
Really? We have a similar story. I went to Marvel's. That's so funny that we went to opposite offices. What's your have you told that story? Can you share that?
I don't think so. It was my best friend from college went to graduate school in New York. He lives in New York now, and I go to New York Comic Con with him every year. So this was but 99 would have been like the days before you had like cell phones with maps and stuff like that. And we were both kind of, I mean, I'd visited New York and he was living there, but we were still new enough that we were just like, oh, I wonder where Marvel and DC are. And we walked for something stupid, like thinking like, like 30 blocks. 30 blocks sounds doable, but it's the long blocks. It's north to south. Oh my God.
Let
me just add this. we got so tired halfway through, and we were such punks. We went into like a Holiday Inn and went up to the we just checked each floor until we saw the cleaning crew leave a door, and we just went in and napped for
oh
about
my
an
God,
hour.
that's awesome.
And then we kept going, and we found
love
DC.
that.
We went up to the lobby, and I got to see, that huge mural that they had, that was all the cool artists that did their current characters. So I got to see that, but that was it.
That's cool.
What did you do when you went to Marvel?
Similar situation. It was actually, I have to say, I think it was probably like the early 2000s. So it was a couple of years after yours, because I remember it was pre-Civil War, but post-bankruptcy. So it had to have been like 2002, 2003.
Yeah, I mean, the bankruptcy was 96, I want to say.
Exactly, yeah. But they only got out of it. When they only recovered from it. But I don't consider Marvel, like golden age of modern Marvel, I would consider really 99 to 2000.
Okay.
But that could be me being revisionist. But when it came to that, I had a friend who lived in the city, who went to college there, and I visited him, and we were both kind of greenhorns when it came to the city. He claimed to be, really good at it, knew all the ins and outs. But then when I went to visit him, he's like, "What do you want to do?" And I'm like, "I don't know, man. I don't live here. I mean, I visit here, and I'm an hour away, but you're the guy with the plan. Let's do something." And he's like, "I got nothing." And I'm like, let's go to Marvel." And he's like, "All right." So we looked it up, on MapQuest or something, pulled up the address. He's like, "Oh, that's not far." Walked over. There it was. No fanfare, no very, obvious signage. Went in. Doorman was very suspicious of us. He's like, we're like, "Oh, we're here to Marvel. We have a big meeting." And they were like, "All right, well, sign in." We were like, because we're such children and greenhorns, we were like, "Oh, we've got to put a fake name. I don't want to get in trouble." So I wrote Scott Lodell, and no, I think he wrote Scott Lodell, and I wrote, I think I wrote Kevin Smith or something. But I was like, It's got to be names that they'll believe. So I put those down. Got in the elevator, which is a small, only a few occupancy elevator. Got shipped up to the front, and got up to, there's a little glass lobby area. And right behind the glass wall with Marvel's big logo on it was just an endless ocean of cubicle. It looked so unremarkable in there.
I've seen pictures. Yeah.
Right? I've never actually double-checked my work, but I can vividly recall we got out, and then the only place to go, it put you right out into the lobby area where there's another person. And she was like, "Can I help you?" Immediately, no questions. And we were like, "Oh, yeah, we're here for the tour." And she's like, "What tour?" And I'm like, "The tour of the offices." And she's like, "We don't do tours anymore." We were like, "Really?" I could have sworn we were here for the 12:30 tour. And she was like, "Nope."
She knew. I bet she gets that maybe once a month at least, if not once a week. So that's funny though. Hey, you got pretty close. I mean,
I got to the gate. Yeah, I got to the lobby.
Yeah. Now that what's funny is we didn't have a doorman stop us. I think that DC was in such a big building. It was one of those ones where they just sort of let you walk up to these banks of elevators. It was a bigger building. I can't remember.
Yeah, back then in '99, you could have gotten far. You probably could have gotten in.
Maybe that's a difference too. That's true. I mean, it was pre 9/11, and just
mine was post 9/11.
That might have literally been a difference. Yeah, I wonder.
Even still, by the way, security was lax, especially for that time period.
I know. That's so funny that we did but you know what? That's something comic book nerds would do. New York, who cares about the Empire State Building and the Statue of Liberty? I don't need Broadway. I need a comic book experience.
Yeah, I got to go to either the publishers, or we're going to go to Bleecker Street and see if we can find the Sanctum, But
exactly. Yeah. I have walked around there a few times too, going I wonder what inspired them. I don't know.
Yeah, no, definitely. I remember I had a friend who lived in the Village, and I was like, I was seeing Bleecker Street. I'm like, "Oh, we're on Bleecker Street. Doctor Strange is nearby." That's
my wife always likes to go to a art supply store. There's just a Dick Blick on Bleecker Street that's decent, and so I've been there many times. And I'm like, it doesn't really look that exciting.
No, it's big, isn't it? I remember seeing it. And it's it's an impressive store.
Yeah, it's good.
Yeah.
Yeah, I miss the East Coast sometimes.
We miss you, man. I gotta tell you, it's great being here. I love I love the East Coast.
We started with talking sort of just I'm looping back a little, but like, have you
No, about
had
conventions and stuff. Yeah.
yeah, conventions? Like, which ones have you gone to this year? Have you gone to any?
This year, I went to San Diego and got COVID, which was a lot of fun,
Oh, you
obviously.
did?
Oh yeah, no, me and
A lot
everybody
of
else.
people did. A lot of
Yeah,
people did.
yeah.
I missed like who did and who didn't, but
Yeah, it was. I was very careful too, and but I know I wasn't patient zero, so I can say that. And it wasn't nearly as
no.
hard as it has been in the past. Mine was like, I was like, I think I might have it. Checked it out. I was like, yeah, I do. As opposed to before when I was like, I have it, and that was also San
Mm,
Diego, but it was 2 years ago. In any case, I went
mhm.
to San Diego. I'm attending a very important wedding that I need to be at the week after Baltimore, so I'm skipping Baltimore this year. But I do like
Got
to
it.
go to Baltimore every year, and
It's
it's
a
a great
good one.
show. It's a good show.
It's always been very comic focused, and it's a good size. It's not
Yeah.
too small. It's not the biggest, but it's a good size.
And they got good guests. They got a high
Yeah, good
high
guests is
threshold of
important.
lists. And when it comes to that, I went to C2E2, which
Oh, you
was
did?
fun for the first time. That was okay. I was honestly a little disappointed by but the city was great. Chicago was awesome. The people were
So
were
cool.
wonderful. The food was terrific. And obviously I'm going to New York, which was up in the air because like Reed's been
Oh.
kind of playing around a lot lately. I don't know about you, but for my first convention ever was New York Comic Con in 2006. So I
Oh.
missed all the fun stuff where it was like just a
Hmm.
big room full of comics with one stage and like the guest of honor standing on that stage and just talking to people. That
Yeah.
my only context for that is like an episode of Freakazoid. I have no other experience when it came to that. Regardless of the fact that it was all happening in my backyard. But
Yeah,
no,
I've gone
New York,
to every New York Comic Con
same. Yeah, I've
from
never
the
missed.
beginning. Was 2006 the first? I'm trying to remember.
That's
And
I
that
mean
was where
I
the fire marshals shut it down
closed it down.
because like it was too many people. And so you know what? Like I snuck in that first year because my local friend that lived in New York thought that
Yeah.
he was like, I'll take care of getting us tickets. And then like that day I was like, do you have the ticket? He goes, I figure we can just get them there at the door. And I was like, I don't know, maybe. It was the first convention, so who knew? And
Exactly.
yeah, I had to call people inside. I was like, can you come out with like some friends' badges so that we can sneak in?
Yeah, when we went, we got in, we got tickets ahead of time. Go in, my friend from the city obviously helped facilitate us our arrival and everything. So we go, and it's really small. You gotta have to understand it, folks. Like when New York Comic Con opened, it wasn't like the Javits was borderline empty, with the notable exception being the New York Travel Show was happening at the same time,
Yeah.
and New York Comic Con was in one
Yeah.
of the panel rooms downstairs.
Yeah. Yeah, it was big, but no, it was not using the whole convention center. They hadn't even started building the annex. It was a
No.
lot smaller. It was
Yeah.
basically the equivalent of sort of what they do for Artist Alley was for like the entire convention,
Exactly.
more or less.
Did you ever go to Special Edition NYC, which was after New York Comic Con had established itself? They were like, let's have a separate solo convention that's just Artist Alley.
Oh, I mean, I heard of it, but I never went to it or anything. Did
Yeah.
you?
I did. I went both years, and it was cool because
Yeah.
if you're a kind of person who just hangs out in Artist Alley all day, well, that's the whole show. The vendors were pissed because people weren't there to buy stuff; they were there to get signatures.
Oh, sure. Yeah, got it. Got it. Lots of retailers and stuff like that too.
There were few retailers. Let me tell you, it was like.
Just
Yeah,
curious.
it was mostly the guys who made out like bandits were the guys who sell those tubes and the like plastic sleeves. Like those are the guys, the only ones who
Yes.
made money at that show.
I still have a great time going to these conventions. I get to meet people that I don't see other places, like you,
Right.
and certain pros that we get to like sort of become a little friendly with,
Totally.
and meet new people. I really always have a great experience at Artist Alley these days. There's a lot of passion there.
Yeah.
It's just that I really miss that these big conventions can't seem to hook the big publishers anymore for the most part.
That's a real shame. It's a real crime. Like that's a post-COVID situation where I want to say that like what really kind of did it in was DC's fandom experience.
Oh,
Where-
that's right. Well,
Yeah,
that
remember
didn't go well.
fandom when we all got
Yeah.
called and we all had some weird participation in that, and DC was like, "We're doing virtual conventions from now on," and then they never did any more than two.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think the fandom was like publishers. I mean, I was convinced after fandom that Marvel was essentially going to pull out of every convention known to man and basically have one convention that was just the Marvel Con.
Yeah.
I'm shocked they didn't, and I'm honestly still on the fence about whether they just merge with D23 and just go like, it's just going to be D23 and Marvel, and we're not going to any other conventions. If you want Marvel stuff, it's there. But I'm glad that they didn't do that. But certainly after Fandom, the big two definitely were like, we're not really representing at the conventions anymore. But I think it's the prohibitive expense of the tabling at the shows, especially the big ones, that pulled.
The prices keep going up.
Yeah, like every publisher is no one's tabling at these shows anymore. Like I remember, I mean, having been to San Diego, like you can see, like Image has a huge ass booth. Skybound's got a great presence. Distillery, everybody. New York Comic Con, maybe not there.
You'll get like IDW, you get Boom. They've still consistently
Dark Horse,
Dark Horse and Oni. But like, you're like, well, wait, where's Marvel and DC? Where's Image? Image has and these pavilions aren't just selling you comics, folks. It's like they bring some of the bigger guests with them. They have like exclusives. It means the panels can be a little better. It means that they'll have actors from like their movies and stuff just like pop up. They have lots of like fun stuff when they've got like a big pavilion. Maybe they'll have an experience of some kind. And so like to fill that in, it's like you go to one half of these conventions, the big ones these days, and all of a sudden there's like multiple fudge vendors. And I'm like, why has this become a big thing at Comic Cons?
And that wouldn't have been my first example, but once you said it, I immediately knew where that fudge table was and how many years I've started to see it. And it's within the last 3 years, the fudge presence at New York Comic Con has tripled. Like there have been now somebody's like, whoa, I run a fudge pavilion. I'll bring my fudge game. And I'm like, this is becoming something else.
One is enough.
What is more than enough at this point?
All of a sudden you're like, and there's like a couple backpack tables, and it's not just like, branded Marvel backpacks. We're just talking backpacks.
Yeah, we're just talking people who are like, yo, maybe you might want like a camel pack. Maybe you might want some like walking sticks. No. I remember there was a pavilion one year Comic Con that was like, we have comic bags where they were like they had sleeves specifically for comics. And I'm sure they went out of business by now. And if they haven't, call me. I'll be happy to sponsor. I'll be happy to take your sponsorship. But yeah.
Let me hold on. Let me see. I like to acknowledge super chats.
Of course, I do the same thing.
Thank you. Let's go Mets. New York. Oh my God, less than a month away. That's sneaking up on me. That is sneaking up on me. How is the fudge? Haven't tried it, Rob.
I'm not a fudge guy. I don't like it. It's too much. It's too much. I assumed as a kid I thought fudge was going to be awesome because I like chocolate, and I was like, boom. Big bite of fudge. No, thank you. Just too much.
All right. Fair enough.
I hear you, though.
And that's all that Sal was mostly here to reveal to you folks is
that I'm not into fudge.
Fan of fudge.
Yeah. That's pretty much it. I mean, there's no other big news.
No, let's talk about it. I can't believe we sort of preambled that long, but it's easy.
When you have me on, that's what's going to happen. Yeah. I'm sorry.
So I'll just say what the fact is, and then we'll get into it. Folks, Sal is writing backup stories in the upcoming Terminator comic from Dynamite. It is the 40th anniversary. Is it the 40th?
Yeah, 84.
40th anniversary. Yeah, 84. Wow, I feel old. And Dynamite got the license, which is awesome because they obviously tend to get some really talented creators on some of their big licensed books.
Yeah.
Like, for instance, in this one, Declan Shalvey.
Right.
Can't beat that.
No.
How did you come to be involved?
It's interesting. Well, hopefully it's interesting. I don't know. I don't want to.
I'll be the judge of that.
Exactly, please. But I'll say this. I actually pursued aggressively the license where I was in our vocation, we work with publishers and we work with vendors and stuff like that. And so I had rapports and contacts within the more indie or licensor publishers. And so I'd reach out occasionally because I was like, man, I wonder when there's going to be a Terminator book. It's been such a long time. Last time, I think it was actually a Dynamite book, and it was RoboCop Terminator Kill Human. And so it's been a really long time between Terminator books. And I thought, man, I wonder who has it now and if I might be able to BS my way into some kind of a working situation where maybe I could promote it. Maybe I could just, sell some Terminator books. Maybe I could help influence it in any way. So I contacted all these different vendors, or rather publishers, and Dynamite and I have had a working relationship for a long time, and I reached out to them, and they were very tight-lipped about it. They didn't tell me yes or no. Actually, I think they said no, but then on my Instagram page, I saw an ad for the reprinting of the lost Terminator media from back in the Dark Horse days through Dynamite, and so I contacted my guys at Dynamite. I'm like, Nick, do you guys have the Terminator license? And they're like, well, we're doing this one thing, we'll see. And then inevitably they were like, we're doing a Terminator book. And I said, listen,
wow,
I want to help however I can help, whatever I can do. I want to be involved. And so they were like, well, listen, can you justify any involvement whatsoever? And I was like, well, little known fact about like my past, I have written in the past, most of my comic work, all of my comic work has been self-published, but I've exactly right. Like, but I've produced 6 or 7 different completely independent IPs. I produced a web comic that they were able to look at immediately, which has subsequently been taken down only because I plan on printing it, and I want to make sure that that's like available for people to pick up someday.
Yeah.
But I had a web comic going. I've worked with a number of amazing creators in the business. Victor Bogdanovic, who's worked on Gunslinger Spawn, Wolverine, Batman, etc. First book he ever did was my book, Garth Kirby and the Cookbook of the Gods, which used to be a Comixology original book, but has since the acquisition evaporated. But I was able to give them PDFs of the books I've done and go, look, I know, and they're all self-published. So obviously, as you know, and if I don't know if you've talked to your audience much about self-publishing, but
sure,
part of the reason or part of the way to break into the industry at all is, and they'll always tell you, is self-publish, is make your own book. And part of that is because
it shows that you can finish something.
It shows you can finish something,
and,
but also,
and you put it out.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
It showcases your skills as a writer, if you're a writer like me or Chris, but also if you have the ability to wrangle an artist, if you have the ability to write for an artist, if you have the ability to work with printers, if you understand.
Yeah, it's different than like creative writing. You're right. And it's, can you collaborate and work in this particular medium?
Exactly. And understand the nuances so that if we use these terminologies or if we need you to understand them, we won't have like a language barrier. And so giving them these opportunities, giving them these pieces, the editor, Nate Cosby, looked them over and was like, "Oh, okay, Nate, these are good. So here's the idea." And they pitched me. They were like, and obviously they gave me a 10-issue series, and I was off the races. No, they were like, "Well, what we're thinking more like a 10-page backup, and spread across 5 issues. So we'll take 10 pages of story and then break them up into 2 pages at a time and put them into the back of the first like 5 issues of Terminator." And I was like, "That is the most generous offer I've ever heard in my life, outside of my wife agreeing to marry me." So I am in. And so I think that's great, Sal. I worked it out and got a chance to write. Like I wrote over time. I think I've written 7 pitches that I sent over to Dynamite for approval. They went through them. We went through the process of refining and getting that all put together. I wrote a script, sent it over. I wrote like several versions of the script, sent them over, and they eventually approved them. They got to send them to licensing, which is another new avenue that another wrinkle, another interesting segment that I'd never considered, which is, sure, maybe we like it, but we've got to send it to the licensor, make sure. So I had to make sure to keep that in mind when I was writing the script, like nothing too inflammatory, nothing too, not that it needs to be subversive, but I wanted to make sure that like everybody was happy with what we're doing here.
Of course.
So
that was another. You're not going to come in and write, a DuckTales Terminator story. That's not, you're not going to write the porno version of Terminator.
I will say I'll tell this quick anecdote, and it's a little bit of inside baseball, but it might be kind of amusing. And it's just we were talking about ideas, and I have a million ideas, and one of my first pitches was actually a concept that I developed years ago that I just always loved. And I sent it to them, and they were like, "We like this idea, but it's too big. It's not going to fit in 10 pages. It's too much." And I was like, "Fair enough." So while I was refining and I was coming with new ideas, I was like, should we just have a Terminator fight a Tyrannosaurus Rex? And immediately they were like, absolutely not. Like the first thing it took some time to like
Okay.
get ideas.
Can't send him back that far, huh?
They were just like, that will clash with the direction we're going with this story. And I was like, that's fair. Like if Declan wants to do, like, because Declan is writing like a really bleak, grounded, crazy Terminator story. And if it's like about people and the human experience and death, for my backup to have the T-Rex, obviously.
Fun idea, but that's more of something that you do with like Deathlock versus Devil Dinosaur. That's the kind of thing you can do.
Right?
But you're right. Like, because when you get to it, it's like, what is Terminator? Strip away the characters, strip away the plot,
sci-fi stuff,
and say, like, what was the idea here? I'm just saying, like, like, and with the first one, it's kind of a slasher movie.
Yeah, it's a horror movie.
And then the second one, it's an action movie, but it's about like how much we control our own fate.
Exactly.
Right? I mean, I'm open to other interpretations, but what I'm saying is, if that's the idea, what fits within that idea? What tells that story?
Yes, and what complements that story? Because that's the other thing I have to do is Declan's the showrunner. This is his baby.
Sure.
And so my job is to tell a story that is all mine, but also supports his story, whether that's not necessarily with character, it's with tone and it's with direction. I need to make sure that my story complements his, but doesn't draw focus, nor does it supplant. Like, I don't want to make sure that, like, I don't want it to seem so drastically odd or off-putting that it's like, I read this, but that was cool, but like, what's this going on back here? What's this thing?
You want something a little different, but you want it to be of a kind.
Exactly.
I do get that. So we'll come back to talking a little bit more about your involvement in your Terminator, but I am kind of curious, just Terminator in general, because you said that you were looking into it before.
Yes.
So you are a fan of Terminator.
I am a fan. I'm a fan of the first two movies, and sucker.
What's your third favorite like Terminator thing without talking about the comics?
Right.
But you can count like the anime, the Sarah Connor.
I haven't actually
Chronicles,
seen the anime yet. I'm really disappointed in myself that I haven't had a chance to we had family coming this weekend, so I couldn't catch
It's pretty cool.
I hear it's amazing, and I'm like really cool. Hyped for it, so that'll probably be what I say, but I wasn't a huge fan of T3. I was actually really disappointed. I saw it in theaters, and after it was done, I was like, ugh. And then Salvation, I kind of liked, but I was too aware of all of the stuff involved, like obviously the Christian Bale freakout, and the reshot ending. Like, I heard about the ending already, but before the movie was even
the original ending was a much more powerful idea.
Yeah, but even then I was like,
it
was a crazy idea, but also I was like, I hate it. I hate that too. Like, I don't like any of these endings, but I didn't like that one. And then Dark Fate, I was really ready for, because James Cameron returned to the franchise, getting these people involved.
But he also endorsed Genesis really strongly, and
that's the other thing is that, like, I couldn't get involved with Genesis. I didn't get on that train. But and Terminator Dark Fate was like, nah. It was okay. Too bleak for me.
It starts off bleak, and it goes there. The one thing I didn't hear you mention that you should definitely make time, check out the Sarah Connor Chronicles, dude.
I do need to watch some. I watched the pilot when it aired, and I was like, that's cool.
It's really cool. It deals with a lot of time travel ideas, like to the point where, like, at some point in season 2, there's like 2 characters that knew each other in the future war. They've come back separately, and eventually they realized that the one that came back second technically came from an altered timeline. So every time the Terminators were coming back, they were slightly altering every single timeline. I was like, oh, how interesting. They had a lot of good ideas.
Yeah.
A lot of good ideas.
I didn't know who Lena Headey was back then. So for me, because I'm like, I am a die-in-the-wool Linda Hamilton fan. Like, I just think she's incredible.
She is great.
And so I was like, I mean, do you need to recast? But I'm sure she said no. But if it couldn't be Linda Hamilton, Lena Headey you can't beat her. She's incredible.
She's really, really compelling and well-rounded as that character. I liked a lot of it. Anyway, I talk it up all the time.
I don't blame you. I understand.
Check it out if you can.
Yeah.
It's really satisfying. Well, so one thing we should do is sort of have our call to action too. So
Sure, yeah.
you've got this comic is about to come out, folks. You want to talk to them about final order cutoff and everything?
Of course. Here's some of the like nitty gritty about like making sure your comics succeed / continue to succeed. Is the whole pre-order thing. Now, I don't want to try and sell everybody on pre-ordering, but all I'll say is this: if you have a comic book store in your area that you go to regularly and you want to check this out, you want to see what this is all about, you want to make sure you get a copy. If you tell your retailer, "I want this book before September 16th," you're guaranteed a copy. If you don't do it by then, you'll have to contend with the rest of the people who go to your comic book store, Wednesday warriors who just pick up the books off the shelves. So if you want to make sure you get a copy, pre-order your book simply by contacting your local retailer, or just go to a website like Previews World and just fill out the information. Actually, I've made a video about it, which I'm going to drop at some point in the next 24 hour, that just explains in 3 minutes or less how to pre-order your books. And I use Terminator as an example in a very self-serving kind of way. But listen, even if you're kind of like, right? Yeah, like pre-order your books. Because the other thing is, if you ever want, like, if you Terminator notwithstanding, if you if you're a big fan of a book that it's like you and a select group of people who love, but it isn't Batman related, like, I can't think of an example off the top of my head, but there's so many.
I'll just give one like that I have been talking up a whole lot, is like an Image comic. I think that The Last Mermaid is like one of the best comics out there right now.
There you go.
And so that's one that I'm like, but not everybody knows about it, even though it's Image. So like, that's one that I'm like, I told my store early on, add that to my pull list, and they're happy to order it.
Right. So just tell them I want Last Mermaid on my pull list, and they'll put it in your bag every single time it comes out until you don't want it anymore. And the easiest way to cancel your pre-order is just to call them and say, this week's is my last issue. Just take me off the list. And
some stores also use a thing called Comic Hub, and that just lists every comic you could order from the different distributors, folks. And you can, like, if your store participates with it, you just put them in as your store, and then you can look at all the comics coming up, and you can just say, like, this one. Makes it easy. They just go approve.
Oh,
so easy.
That's Comic Hub. Comic Hub. Check it out, folks, because but the point being, if you were to reserve, or if you were to not reserve Last Mermaid, and everyone just kind of left Last Mermaid to its own devices, you're really the publisher doesn't get the sales data until after.
Right.
So
it's just a store guessing what the interest might be, and if it's significantly less, then their orders are going to go way down. But if at least a few people are saying, I definitely want to check this out, that really helps. That can spread word of mouth.
Exactly. But they also know, like, that way if they're sure we're going to guaranteed sell 20,000 copies of Last Mermaid, that's pretty good. Like, that'll keep the book alive. I mean, I want to say not just the word of mouth from Chip Zdarsky working on Daredevil, but like, I think pre-orders helped keep Daredevil just consistently selling over 30,000 copies every bi-weekly period. And so it was Chip's book to leave or continue, because when a book sells a consistent number like that, a flat line of that, you have yourself a run, as opposed to like a mini.
I agree. Yeah. And I think that's a good observation there, Kevin Street, that I think that there are a bunch of stores that are less interested in maintaining their back issues, just because, back issues are good and they're fun, but that's only a part of the audience. Some people don't care as much about hunting for the back issues.
And it's, like the video game market, the comic book store doesn't really, first of all, the publisher doesn't make any money off of back issues. So the publisher isn't interested in helping out with that. And the retailer has to sell any back issues, unless it's like a coveted book that's, got good word of mouth, at a loss. They have to discount the book in order to make it move. And really the only reason why they have back issues at all is probably because they had to do some kind of a retailer variant cover incentive thing. I should also mention, by the way, that the book actually does officially drop on October 9th. So if you are
October
just
9th,
interested,
folks,
if
that's
going
when it's
out
in
there,
stores.
same day as Batman, as Absolute Batman. So when you see that Batman Who Lifts on that shelf, you'll also know there's a Terminator out there waiting for you to pick it up. It's got my story in there.
Last week I created Absolute Batman, which is the Batman with a 7.5 foot chest logo. So he just stands behind it, sort of politely waving.
Love it.
All right. Absolute. I don't know.
Absolute.
I think Scott Snyder is probably going to go home and cry, going, "Why didn't I think of that? I was so close.
No doubt.
I was so close.
It was right there. It was right there on the tip of his tongue. Man, I don't know about you, but not to switch topics or anything, but I am hyped about this Absolute initiative. I'm like really looking forward to it.
I think it sounds interesting. I talk about the news on this show and riff on it, but
sure,
the thing I like that they're saying about it is how they're trying to strip away a lot of the sort of advantages and stuff to try to see if there's a way to make these superheroes underdogs. And I go,
right,
that's an interesting idea. I go, I wonder, who knows if you can succeed? Can you make somebody powerful like Superman or Wonder Woman in the underdog? Maybe. You could certainly take away a lot of their advantages and see if the core of them is still a hero without all that sort of support.
Yeah, so, and the creative team's involved. I'm like, wow, I'm pre-ordering all of them.
Yeah, me too. I'm gonna check them out for sure. Tell you what, like this is normally when I start sort of talking about the news. Now, you have a life. Do you want to hang out and talk about some of the news with us, or do you do you need to? Okay, but tell you what,
with the news.
If you're 3 hours ahead of me, so if it gets to a point, Sal, where you need to I need sleep or I need food, none of us will blame you. In the meantime, we're happy to have you here, and if you want to keep talking up anything.
Oh, sure. I'm happy
to
hang for at least a little while longer. I want to make sure this is your show. I want to give it back to you at some point. But
this is fun, though. This is fun.
Let's do the news, then. Let's do it.
So look at that. There's my thumbnail for my news.
Hey.
What? See, I don't know. Maybe you might be. You might be.
You never know.
All right. Let's see. Oh, you know what? The first piece of news here is actually something that I'm nominated for a comic book community award, but guess what, folks? So's our guest.
That's true. I only just found out about this recently. I was tagged in an Instagram post, and I was like, "Wow, what a lovely honor!"
Isn't that cool? Yeah, Sal's in there for best review channel. So, and I'm in there for something best editing. I
love it.
Exactly know why, but this is just something where comic book readers, they get to nominate their channels, and now the finalists have been announced, and the voting is open to all of you. You can all vote. So if you go to this website, and I'd appreciate your vote. I'm sure Sal would, but no obligation. Check it out. You might discover some other channels that you like. A lot of emerging channels. But congrats, Sal.
You too.
That's nice.
Congratulations to you as well.
Thank you. Here, I'm just trying to size that properly. But comic book community awards. That's nice because web shows like ours, like there's a bunch of comic tubers, but it's not like we really are going to be first in line to get nominated for an Eisner or something like that.
Hell no.
I think that, personally, these types of shows that we do should be considered for an Eisner, maybe even have their own category, because I think that that's kind of the modern way of talking about comics with people. But
you've definitely hit on something there. I think that I remember a time when webcomics was not a category in the Eisners, and that was much contested by the Academy. I think after webcomics got in, they're not adding new stuff. Like they're like, we conceded the webcomic thing, which in and of itself has kind of changed.
But webtoons are humongous worldwide right now. So that was just the early days. We still haven't quite figured out how to monetize maybe webcomics and stuff, but it's a huge industry.
Oh yeah, no, it absolutely is. I mean, it was such a drastically different industry when they first invented it, like when it was first a category. But I mean, I'm shocked that at the very least the Harveys or some other side or slightly,
Yeah.
award ceremonies or groups haven't added a podcast category. But I'll tell you
Yeah.
that, did Comic Tropes as a brand? I don't think it did, because I feel like we would have worked together at the early days. But very early on, when me and a couple other guys launched, our channels over 10 years ago, Whatnot. No, not Whatnot. Whatnot is a big deal. But Watch Mojo did a video.
Oh yeah, Watch Mojo.
Let me tell you something. Watch Mojo had like a website you could go to vote, and on who would be the top 5 or top 10 comic book YouTube channels, and that got so cutthroat and ugly and desperate, and it was dark. And I feel like if any awards group like the Harveys or even the Eisners were to introduce comic book podcasting, it would get ugly.
Ooh, I sort of see what you mean. At the same time, it's like they nominate like
I know,
websites that do like reviews and stuff. So it's like you'd have to be pretty specific. It would probably have to be we're nominating shows that like have literary merit, not just
not
ComicFart.com.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah, not just live streams. Maybe not even grading shows. It would probably have to be. But I think I just think that there's the potential there, and I think that is kind of one of the main mediums that people are going to get their comic book discussion and review and analysis right now.
I'll tell you this, it would certainly get a lot more eyes on some of these groups. Like at the very least, like they bring their audiences. I mean, even just the YouTube side, you're talking millions of potential viewers.
Folks, that's the guy that runs Comic Book Community Awards. Hey! So thanks, Brian, for the for organizing something this fun.
Appreciate thank you for the shout. Thank you for the nominations. We really appreciate it.
Let's see. Now we've got real news and we're going to start with Ed Piskor. His last comic that he was making is going to get a release, but it's not the way it was going to get released. So the last book that he was making was called Switchblade Shorties. If you guys didn't see it, he was releasing it to his patrons. He was doing like it daily, not daily, but like weekly on Instagram and stuff. And it was a comic strip. It was a return to comic strips, although it was like, through his lens. It was like a violent Peanuts or something. It's what he was doing. So he had a publisher deal, and then the allegations happened. Sad story. And they just decided not to print it. But now, what that means is that Ed's family and estate have the rights. They reverted to Ed. So this week they announced that they've decided to crowdfund it, which I think these days is just as viable a publishing method as any. I think it's proven itself pretty well, and they're going to do it through Zoop. So I just wanted to announce that later this month, September 24th, that's going to go live. If you were a fan of Ed, or you were curious what kind of things he did that was unique, that's the way to get it. So I wanted to put that out there. I miss Ed. I know that, Sally, you tend to like read a little bit more mainstream, not exclusively, but a little more.
No, it's true, but I'm very.
Did you read any of Ed's stuff though?
I read Grand Design.
Sure.
And and I was not an avid viewer of kayfabe, but I was aware of it, and I watched it like occasionally when it would hove into my field of view, but also when I would when we'd have like a similar subject. I'd want to make sure I'd find that if we had similar sensibilities in terms of like what we grew up on.
Yeah, and so, definitely. Yep.
When we would talk about a book that I knew was from like that era, I'd go and be like, did kayfabe talk about this already? If so, what did they say? I want to make sure I don't want to say the same stuff, So,
oh yeah. I think that's just smart. Yeah. I used to just not watch other comic book YouTube channels for the first few years of my show because I was always afraid of being influenced by somebody else's opinion. Totally. And now I think I've sort of come up with like a real way of coming up with my topic and starting to break it down independent of anything. And so now I do watch a little bit more comic book YouTube. It's nice. I like seeing others.
Same.
Anyway. I just wanted to put that out for people. I think a lot of people that watch this channel used to watch Ed's and would want to know about that.
Yeah.
All right. So DC is really, really promoting their compact comics. And I don't blame them. I've said on this show, I hope it takes off because I think it's a good value. Have you picked any up, Sal, yet? Any compact comics to actually see what it looks like?
I have not, but I've picked them up physically, but I haven't bought any. And the reason for that is because I have all of them. Like,
you have all of them, you think?
I have all those books in other forms. So I don't need to another version of them. But I picked them up, I've looked through them, and it's one of those things where I'm like, this is a smart move. Even if it's just, I saw someone on Twitter, some professional being like, so it turns out the only way to save the industry is to simply make them smaller. Weird. And I was like, fair, like, reductive, but fair. But the manga format, like the undersized, I mean, look.
Well, I think it's just a price point. You know, like you get around 12 issues of a comic for $10, I think is a good value is all.
Yeah. No, it's true. They're a great value. They're high quality. I was really worried that that you'd lose something in the reduction in size, like image clarity or even text visibility.
Right.
But they seem to be pretty proportionate. They're not made to be that size, but they do fit. And as long as you and I are on the same page when it comes to like the mantra about getting comics into people's hands. Like I don't care how you read them, as long as you buy them and as long as you can get them, as long as they're accessible. So, this is a great way to get younger people to read them as well.
Well, just because you mentioned the size, like I thought I had one here, but I guess I've put it somewhere else. It's like 5x7 or something. It's actually a little bigger than, just a notch bigger than manga. I think if it did shrink down to like a manga size, then the lettering might be illegible and they'd have to redo it. But it's technically the size of whatever the most common paperback size is. It's so it's a notch bigger, but it's still very portable. I'll just point that out for if anybody hasn't seen one yet. But yeah, so here's the news. DC seems to be all in because they've announced future versions of these compact comics. And now they're letting retailers either order these specific display stands or you get one free if you order 60 copies of DC's compact comics. Mm-hmm. I think that there's some specific ones. But, for a bigger store, this is an attractive looking display. They hold 36 copies, so like 6 per each of these little windows here. It's like 6 deep. And then at the top, this is reversible. So you could sort of either show Watchmen or Batman. And that makes sense, I guess.
Absolutely. I'd rather see these in grocery stores.
Of course. Of course.
Video game shops, like wherever comics aren't normally sold. Like I'd like to, sure. It makes sense that you should easily get these at a comic shop. That's like a no-brainer. But like, they should be really aggressively pursuing these elsewhere. I mean, you remember the Walmart initiative from DC when they tried to make those 100-page giant books that were...
It was a good idea, and no one could find them.
No,
they didn't know where in Walmart they were.
I assumed they were in the magazine section. No, they were in the trading card section, under the trading card section. I remember I did a test, actually, where I took a Post-it note, and I put it in the middle of the second issue of a Batman in that Walmart. And I came back 2 weeks later, still there. I'm like, okay. Shame.
Well, I mean, I agree with you there wholeheartedly, Sal. I think that, distribution is like its own thing that we could probably talk about for easily 30, 45 minutes.
Right.
Anyway, I just wanted to point out that you might see some of these soon. It's DC's initiative. I think it's a good value. I'll just leave it at that, I guess.
You're agreed.
It's a good value.
No question there. I hope Marvel follows suit, though.
Yeah.
I can't get a copy of Strange Academy that isn't undersized. But,
Well, you know what? Like, now that I think of it, there's another comic that's going to be doing the small compact trade paperback, and that's Saga.
No kidding.
Saga has announced that they're going to do it. In fact,
then Invincible's coming.
I would think so. I mean, actually, we've got an artist in the chat room here who's Robert Kirkman book was printed at an undersize. EJ Sue is here, and Tech Jacket was actually published in a compact manga size, and it was
cool.
I think it was a great version. By the way, I think it was a great version.
That's great.
Yeah, so I would not be surprised if hey, time to reissue those Walking Deads again. We'll let like Walking Dead Deluxe wrap up, and then we're gonna get like Walking Dead Compact.
And, I mean, I think that's a fantastic idea, because the other thing is, that like these should appeal primarily to kids, and if you can get like these kind of not subversive, but kind of counterculture. I mean, if I were 11. I would need a copy of Walking Dead. I'd have to have a copy of Invincible. I would need to read this stuff. And it would be great to have them in a smaller format, so they're not only easily transportable, but maybe also easy to hide.
That's so true. That's so true. I kind of hid my copy of the Lobo Paramilitary Christmas special as a kid. Invincible already has a compact version on Volume 4.
There you have it.
Missed that. Thank you, Steve. Thanks for pointing that out. I really appreciate that. So anyway, but I think that, I bet you Walking Dead will get a compact version. I bet you.
Yeah, I would not bet against it.
DC has also made a change to their minimum orders to get an exclusive cover. And so I just have a representational version of what I'm talking about.
Sure.
This will explain. So DC has allowed retailers, comic book shops, to produce their own exclusive cover for their comics. They have to get it approved, but they can do it. And it's always been orders 3,000 or more. That's the minimum.
Okay.
3,000 copies. In other words, you probably have to be a chain store or pretty big store, because 3,000 copies, that's a lot to sell as just a store. That's a lot. Like maybe Midtown Comics could do it in your neck of the woods, but not a lot of other places.
Sure.
So what they do there is they pay the wholesale price of what the comic costs, plus they have to pay the artists. They're arranging all of that, the stories. Not huge profit margins, but you get something very unique, and the collector market likes that. So also if you sell online, it might do, that's attractive. Collectors love variant covers these days. And so like this is one example of DC had an exclusive that Jetpack Comics and Forbidden World teamed up together, or Forbidden Planet teamed up to do this one by Ben Oliver.
It's a great cover.
Yeah, it's cool. It's creepy. Anyway, obviously some publishers we've seen like IDW and Dynamite have figured out ways to do even like smaller batches of those orders. And now DC wants to really promote all in and absolute. So they've lowered that minimum. Now stores can order just 1,000 copies and get their own exclusive retailer variant, which I think is going to open that up to a lot more shops.
Yeah, it will.
Which, from DC's point of view, maybe they'll sell more copies for this initiative, get more copies in people's hands. So because you mentioned earlier that you're excited for it already, but imagine how many more people would get it if a store was like, you know what, I was going to order like 500 copies, but if I can get my own cover, there's like a long tail to that where I can keep selling, like, it's got my store in the background, or I can just say that this was our variant. It's a big deal. So.
Well, or they have a local artist that maybe would be more willing to work with them than with a publisher. Like I know, I'm next door to the Joe Kubert School, which is owned by Anthony Marquez, who owns a comic book store called Dewey's Comic City, and so he works directly with the Kuberts. So theoretically, Anthony through Dewey's could set up a special Kubert variant.
Oh yeah. Oh my God! Imagine the competition there, or something like that.
Like, I can get Adam Kubert. I got the Adam Kubert variant for Absolute Batman. It's only available at the Madison, New Jersey location of Dewey's Comic City. That book would sell for what? At least a few hundred, maybe $1,000.
I think exactly. Like initially, maybe you're selling it for the retail price, and you're making a pretty small margin there, but. Like, you wait a month and you can call it a back issue, and then you can basically assign what the market. Who knows? Comic book stores are weird with how they, like, there are day one variant covers where they're like, sorry, it's going for like $18 on eBay, so that's what it is. You know, I get it. This is a good one. What's an eased? DC eased. Yeah, good one, Enrique. Thank you.
Yep.
Thank you. I'm talking about the news, and so like I'm not as funny because I'm just like, well, I need to focus on being a good host. And you guys are coming in with the jokes, and I appreciate that. And I've got Sal on color commentary, so I'd be going like, lift him up to the top rope. Oh my God, that's a double suplex off the top rope, and you would just be doing color commentary, saying, I don't know.
I didn't really watch a lot of wrestling, but
Sal, we had a good thing going.
I know.
And you bailed. No,
I knew it.
All you have to do is go like, oh my God, that's crazy. That's all that they would say. That's color commentary.
I see. Oh, holy cow. Yeah.
I can't believe that.
Yeah, I can do that.
I was, 3,000 to 1,000 doesn't sound like a lot until you're a store that's ordering the copies. And like, I guarantee I have stores that'll do it. Like I have stores that probably wouldn't have done it, but now will definitely do it. Well, and have you seen how many like just in various social media, how many sort of fun drawings people have done of Absolute Batman because he's just so thick and different looking?
Yep. Oh, and I've seen them because Scott is like blasting all of them where he's like, hey, check out this one. Check out this one. Check out like every day. All day I'm seeing new Absolute Batman drawings that are just incredible.
Hey, Nick. Sal, be on your best behavior. Your employer is here and watching your behavior now.
Oh, hello. Hey, Nick.
No, we had a good discussion, Nick, about Terminator, and now we're just having fun with the news. Yes.
On sale.
Okay, Nick knows wrestling. I knew I liked Nick. All right, what else have we got for news? Oh, ElfQuest, dude, this is a book that's been around for ages. And do you know the story of how Wendy and Richard Pini met?
No, I don't. I know that that's like the longest, like that's one of like the most famous comic couples outside of the Simonsons. So
I know, right? There's a few good power couples. Let's think about it, because there's also Jimmy Palmiotti and Amanda Connor are definitely a power couple.
Yeah.
I have to think about it, but let me tell this story real quick.
Sure. Please.
Okay, it was in the letters column of Silver Surfer. Back in the day, Marvel would like publish your address with your name.
Yes.
Just dox people. And they were both into it, and they started like talking to each other by just like I was about to say mailing back and forth, and that's how they came to meet each other. And Wendy was like a huge cosplayer in some of those earlier days. She would go as Red Sonja and stuff. So that's how they met.
Interesting.
Oh yeah, the Allreds. That's another. You're good. That's a good power couple. Good.
Yeah,
good.
That's right. That's right.
Yep, that's a nice one. All right, so ElfQuest. All right, what have we got going on here? Well, the long-running fantasy series is going to get 4 hardcover collections through Dark Horse. It's going to start with Volume 1 in February, so not too far away.
Yeah.
If you guys have never read it before, might be the way you want to read it.
Yeah.
Full color. And a bunch of those early comics were black and white, so they've been in color before, but this is it's a big deal. And and
Dark Horse is going to print it. It's going to be a beautifully well like bound book. It's going to look great.
Speaking of like reprinting color from old stuff, did you by any chance even like either pick up or flip through the Skybound reprint of Transformers #1 that Marvel did back in the day?
Yes, I did, because it was on the I went to a comic book store recently. I'll shout them out, Fortress of Solitude in Newark, New Jersey. But they had like they had 6 tables of all the new books just flat out on the tables. And I saw it and I'm like, ooh, I didn't buy it, but I did look at it. And it looked great.
The inside, they've printed it on newsprint, so the colors match the original intention of the colorist. And I always appreciate it when a publisher considers that, because those colorists, they knew that their colors would be coming out slightly muted on certain papers, and they colored it appropriately for that.
That's
but if
so
you just
awesome.
take the colors that they marked and print it on super bright white paper, everything's
not gonna work.
garish.
It is. I mean, like, you remember those older Marvel reprints of like the Todd McFarlane Spider-Man collections, where you're looking at it and you're like, I guarantee you there is a generation of comic book readers who were like, I don't understand the appeal of Todd's art because of how poorly managed the original colors on high glossy white stark paper digitized would look.
Yeah.
And it's like, no, I mean, I am a purist when it comes to like Batman the Killing Joke. I don't really like Boland's new coloring. I understand it, but I don't like it. I have 2 copies of the Absolute Edition.
Yeah,
it
I know
has,
what you're talking about there.
Right, but it has the original colors in the back on the original newsprint, and it makes a difference.
I don't need always realistic colors. Sometimes I'm okay with a color that is designed to tell a part of the story.
Yes.
And I think that those sort of psychedelic colors in Boland's original Killing Joke fit the story because so much of it was from Joker's perspective.
Yes.
And
that's so true.
The modern color that he did, everything's very sort of drab and gray. And I'm like, this doesn't look like Joker's world. This looks like Batman solving a case.
Yeah. And I wonder how much, I mean, like, it would have been celebrated, it would have been considered iconic, but I wonder how seared into people's minds it would have been if it just looked like every other Batman book on the shelf. I mean, the Boland art alone set it apart. Like, Killing Joke looks, I'd never seen a book like that in my life. And even then, like, as a kid, I used to see it on the shelf behind the counter, where it was like, you can't touch that, but because you're too young. But I do like vividly remember I had a book, Batman. It wasn't the one from the 30s and the 70s. It was like the complete Batman compendium. It was this big, like, floppy Batman book that has Batman on the cover. He's kind of like, I don't even know who the artist was, but it had all these collections of, Dark Knight Returns and Batman Digital Justice. But those Killing Joke pages, like, they capture the moment where Joker, like, pulls Batman's cowl down, something I'd never considered, but seeing it through Boland's work was like, it looked like it was really happening. I was like, wow, it's just awesome.
I totally get what you're talking about. Anyway, color's important to me. I'm excited to see what ElfQuest looks like in this sort of modern colors. Because, and Nick Barucci pointed it out. Yes, Epic did it first. This was a comic that did get published through Marvel's creator-owned line in the 80s.
Wow.
What a wild line. I got to talk about that on an episode someday.
Definitely. You got to do an Epic episode. That'd be amazing.
Oh, I was going to, yes, I almost forgot. 176 pages each. There's the dimensions. $30. $30 for 176 pages. Hardcover.
Wow.
I think that's reasonable. I think that's reasonable. I recommend it. Someday I will also do an episode, folks, on ElfQuest. It's an important indie comic.
Yeah.
Yep, 75 cents. Shortly after it went from 65 to 75, I think. But yeah. Anyway. Jamie Hewlett. Artist that I just happen to love. Tank Girl, Gorillas. Yes, give me Jamie Hewlett. We don't get enough. So I wanted to point out that there's a reprint of a comic coming out. It's a lot of money, folks, though. So protect your wallet right now or you're going to cry. So I'm talking, it's the 25th anniversary of the Jamie Hewlett and Matt Wakeham's comic Foo Action. So Titan is actually going to be publishing this. It's going to be called Foo Action Silver Jubilee Super Deluxe Edition. Yeah, that's pretty good. That's a nice long title. Only 500 copies going to be printed.
What is this, JLA Avengers?
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. Hardback, 464 pages, and a bunch of like tip-ins and signed, numbered editions. Cool. Each one, numbered tip-in sheet signed by them. Cloth spine, silver page edging, foil, spot UV finishing, top of the line, blah, 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 right? Embroidered pages so that they're not going to like bend or look weird or anything.
Cool.
$400.
Oh my God. Okay. I understand. I get it. Oh.
It's for a somewhat elite group of people that breathe rarefied comic air. This This is for the I don't know, the Robert Kirkmans, not the not
Yes.
the comic pops and comic tropes of the world.
Yeah, too rich for my blood. But yes, maybe one day we'll meet Robert Kirkman and he'll let us look at it for a minute.
Yeah, he'll let us look at it. Anyway, I just wanted to put it out there, folks. You know, this is going to probably sell out. Jamie Hewlett, if nothing else, people like, you know, Gorillaz fans will buy it. But, you know, this is a really cool, subversive, like action comedy comic. And, it's, you know, I'll just hope that once this super deluxe edition sells out, that they can release just a normal version for struggling plebeians like me that like
Fair enough. Yeah.
Yes, time to sell a kidney. Exactly. Too much. I mean, it's a lot of pages. It's I don't know.
It's in the eye of the beholder. I can't even, I can never really say, oh, it's too much nowadays, because I know, you know, there's some things that I would spend $400 on that maybe somebody else would go, why would you buy it at all? Much less spend $400.
Yeah. Do you have like a white whale of a back issue or anything that you would like pay a good amount for if you found it in the wild?
I'd love to. I mean, you know, I'm a sucker for signatures sometimes when it comes to people that I really care about. Like I never got a George Perez signature. I'd love to get a JLA Avengers signed by George, but that's, you know, obviously gone forever. But that's one. It's funny.
That's nice.
Yeah. But you know, outside of that, I mean, I'm happy with the books I have. It would be neat to have something like a statement piece, you know, like an Amazing Spider-Man 1 or something like that, you know, just to have like, even if it's tattered, you know, even if it's just like, it's a CGC 0.2, you know, I'll take it.
You know what I would do for that is for me, first printing of TMNT #1. I'm never going to be able to afford like a good copy, but if I could get any copy like that would be one that would mean something to me. I understand. It takes me back.
Yeah. I've never even seen one. The closest thing I've ever seen is I think I saw one of my friends has. I think he had a copy, or he could get a copy of like TMNT 3 second printing signed. You know, that was. It's like,
that's pretty cool. That's pretty cool. Whoa, look at that. Choosier says, have a JLA Avengers #1 signed by Perez and Bob Smith. Congratulations, dude.
Nicely done.
That is a signature piece, I think. You know?
Yeah, absolutely.
Anytime somebody passes away, unfortunately, that becomes a signature piece. I think you're right, Nick. But
I'd love to get I couldn't get it in time. But my wife is a huge fan of the Doctor Strange original graphic novel Into Shambhala. And yeah, I got it signed by J.M. DeMatteis. I sent it over to his, like, we were in touch. So he's like, yeah, you send it to me and I'll sign it for you. But we didn't, I didn't have the heart to ask him, could you send it to Dan Green too and have him sign it? And then Dan Green passed away and that was the end of it. So.
Well, I'm glad that you got J.M. DeMatteis to sign it. He was a real sport about it.
Yeah, he's great.
And he's got some great news. Marvel is finally reprinting his Spectacular Spider-Man run with Sal Buscema. I
can't believe it took this long.
I know. It's a good run, folks. It's really underrated.
Yeah. I'd say it's neck and neck with Amazing at that time. Big time.
Yeah, and I think Amazing always sort of got more attention during that whole run, but Spectacular sold well. And anyway, it was really cool because did a lot more with the supporting characters and like kind of built up B-level villains. Like right now, I don't love Amazing Spider-Man right now, but Tombstone is treated as a big villain, and that's because of everything J.M. DeMatteis did with him in that Spectacular run.
So true. Yeah, no, there was very little really to work with when it came to Tombstone, unless you read the Spectacular run.
Yep. Yes. Yeah, that's another good one that I'm looking forward to. That is such a weird run where Anne like just did whatever the hell she wanted.
It's
like
so
1 week he's fighting Ultron, the next he's battling Mephisto.
Yeah.
He's like hanging out with street punks. It's such a weird run, but it's so cool.
One of my favorite old Spider-Man books that I have, just a single issue, is the issue that Anne wrote where he dies and he visits Thanos, or he's visited by Death and Thanos, and it's it always stuck with me. I'd never seen anything like that in mainstream books before, and I was just like, what is this? Also, you know, it was the adjectiveless Spider-Man book. Man, the art was incredible in that book too. But the Sentry really blew it away.
Totally. Oh, hello. Is the 90s considered a golden-ish era in comics? Are there modern comics with a Gen X vibe? Is that even a thing? Thank you. You know what? The 90s isn't, for me, as easy to break down as one decade because so much happened in the comics industry. There's the early 90s where Image gets founded and there's a million publishers and a million like knockoffs of that style. And then the mid 90s, as the mainstream publishers start having a lot of, well, they're just throwing everything at the wall. And like we talked about earlier, 96, Marvel has to declare bankruptcy.
Yeah.
So there's like these periods, these like little sub eras within the 90s.
Yeah. But if you're looking for a Gen X vibe books, I mean, a lot of the Vertigo books at that time, from the late 80s to the early 90s, was very, torn denim, F the man, anarchy in the UK kind of reactions to culture. So,
I totally agree with you. Books like Enigma, by Peter Milligan, I want to say, are like very Gen X in a way. Hey, Jim Mafood's actual Gen X comic that he did.
Yeah.
But this question is saying, are there modern comics with a Gen X vibe? So I think you'd have to just sort of look at like creators that are in their mid 40s to mid 50s, and they're gonna like capture some of that.
Hellblazer, Dead in America.
Yeah, that's a good
captures that classic Vertigo feeling, but also that angry counterculture, resentful, like you forgot about me generation kind of reaction. Hellblazer, Dead in America.
That's a good one. Yeah, I think there's a bit of Grommets and Invincible actually does also capture some of the Gen X experience, and it's not that old. Yeah, those are both good observations. Grommets more realistic, but good calls.
Yeah.
All right, we got some more news. What did you think I was done? All right. Misplaced. The Misplaced. Never read this one, but it's getting a live action / animated film. Because it's a comic
animated
book. Yes,
like
both a hybrid.
A hybrid. Neat.
A hybrid. So basically, we've got Chris Callahan's book, The Misplaced. Source Point Press published this from 2019 to 2020. Now it just got announced that it's getting a live action and animated hybrid film. It'll make sense once I describe the plot, the idea of this book to everybody.
Yeah.
One of the producers worked in post on the Captain Carter TV show and is currently a producer on the latest season of American Horror Story. For what that's worth, I don't know. So I'll just give you the plot, everybody. What if paradise wasn't as it seemed? A tragic journey to the new world. Two souls separated by death. After a fatal shipwreck, James finds himself dissatisfied with the tedious machinations of eternity in the afterlife. A journey to discover the truth of his wife's disappearance reveals a terrible secret even knowledge can't explain. To find the misplaced, one spirit must return to the land of the living. But faced with a world he doesn't remember, will James find the help he needs to uncover the truth of immortality? Will a mysterious woman finally lead him to Anna, or to his own destruction? The Misplaced is a dark supernatural tale of love and desperation that spans several planes of existence. So that makes sense why you could do it in different forms.
Yeah, that's cool.
Maybe like the afterlife is animated and something like that.
Yeah.
You could do crazier stuff. Yeah. Not live act. We're not talking like The Lion King or something.
Yeah. That's cool.
Yeah. Anyway, could be fun. Just thought I'd throw that one out there. Don't have a lot to say about it.
Fair. Yeah.
Oh, Gail Simone. What a busy year she's had after a small break, right?
Yeah.
She's had She Spawn to it. So Todd McFarlane had already announced back at San Diego Comic-Con that Gail Simone would be writing She Spawn, but we didn't know when that was coming out.
Mm-hmm.
Then this week, Gail tweeted the reveal that she's currently writing the dialogue for She Spawn. If for people that don't know, Gail is currently writing a Superman story in Action Comics. She's writing X-Men. She's about to do James Bond over at Dynamite. You're home right now, Sal.
Yes, that's right. That's exciting.
And She Spawn. So look at that. DC, Marvel, Dynamite, Image. 4 companies, 4 books. Boy, I think she's impressive.
Yeah.
If you don't know, folks, you might know this character if you remember any Spawn history. She spawned as Jessica Priest. That's the assassin that killed Al Simmons. That was back in issue 61. It was a retcon. And then she debuted as She Spawn in Spawn 300. Did you go through a phase of reading Spawn?
Of course I did. I read so much Spawn. I bought so much Spawn. Spawn hit me scratched me right where I itched, man. I was there, hook, line, and sinker. I made my grandma go to a Comic-Con in Brooklyn to get me Spawn #1. And I had Spawn 1 through 50. I want to say 60 is when I have that run. And then around that time I quit. I was like, at some point or another, I went, oh, they're never going to wrap this is never going to end, you know?
No, it's an ongoing book. Yeah.
Yeah. But Spawn has a more storybook kind of story, you know,
he had that timer, didn't he? He had a
timer after 50 when he died again and then went to hell and then was like, I'll give you something else. I'm like, nope, this is never going to stop. But the art was still so sick that I couldn't avoid it. So I dropped off until I heard that issue 100 was coming. And I remember Todd talking about very early on where he was like, he was going to end it at issue 100. And so I grabbed issue 96, 7, 8, 9, and then 100. And, it didn't end, but it wrapped up in kind of a good way where I was like, this is the closure I need for Spawn. So I've read... You know what?
I read it through about issue 100 and then I did sort of drop off.
Yeah. No, I have issues. I have issues like 101 to 115 or something. Somebody sent me a bunch of copies and I was
okay.
Oh, maybe one day I'll read them, but more than likely I will not.
Yeah. Yeah, but I take it there sort of are eras by the creative teams adjusting. McFarlane's always been involved on one level, but he hasn't always been the artist. He hasn't always been the writer. He's switched things up,
Yes, so. Absolutely.
It's kind of cool that he's still been involved, though.
I love that. I mean, it's not as involved as Larson on Savage Dragon, where it's just been so him impressive. The whole time.
Yeah.
But I do I appreciate that it's Todd. I mean, it's his baby, and
yeah, it is. It is. So anyway,
yeah.
Do you remember who the original killer of Spawn was?
How could I forget, man? I mean, it holds a special place in my heart because I have a really weird anecdote, which this has been the show for that. But it was Chapel of Youngblood.
Yes.
Rob Liefeld lost the rights to Youngblood to a weird. What was it?
Andrew Rev, a real weirdo.
Yeah, because I reached out to them when I found out that he owned them. And I was like, I'd like to purchase one character from Youngblood. And he's like, let's talk. So we got into a little bit of a conversation about maybe purchasing or acquiring a Youngblood character. And it got too real. And I abandoned the conversation because I was like, we're talking figures. And I'm like, I don't want a Bleeding Cool article about me having broken up the set. You know what I mean?
Yeah. It was a weird idea, JoJo. They were doing a bit of a shared universe back then. It sort of faded away, but it's actually come back now. They've retconned certain things, but a book like Blood Squad 7 sort of retroactively replaces Youngblood with Blood Squad 7. It's kind of fun.
Okay. All right, that's fun. I've never heard of it in my life.
And it's written by Joe Casey, who was writing Youngblood back when in the last days of its Image run.
Wow.
So he definitely knows the history and knows what to talk.
That's fun.
Sal tried to buy a Youngblood character, apparently. Yes,
I did. And it was Chapel. I wanted to buy Chapel. That was my hope. I was like, then
Chapel, probably probably the most interesting because he was on a superhero team, but he felt like a total bad guy. So there's a conflict there, right off the bat, as compared to just Shaft is Hawkeye.
Right? That's it.
Rogue has purple tights.
Yeah. Bad Rock is the Thing.
But young.
Yeah. But he's a kid and his name was Bedrock before. Yeah. Man, I also was disappointed where that issue might have been Spawn 18. I don't remember what issue it was where they revealed that Chapel killed Spawn.
Yes.
And Spawn went to get revenge on Chapel. And so basically McFarlane drew an issue of Youngblood where like all the characters are there. And I was like, wow, this looks amazing. I'm never buying Youngblood, but this looks great.
That might have been even earlier. I'm wondering, because right around like 5 or 6 months in, they all like all the image creators swapped their titles.
Yes.
Like and wrote and drew each other's titles. So I wonder if it was.
It might have been way earlier. Might have been like 11.
I'd have to look it up
because I know 8 was the Dave Sim issue. 9 was Angela. No, okay, no, maybe 8 was Frank Miller.
Something like 8 through 12 was all guests. Yeah,
it was Miller, Moore. I think
Sim.
Morrison wrote one. Sim and Neil Gaiman. Yeah.
Neil Gaiman, right? Famously.
Yeah.
Oh, how times have changed. Yeah. All right. IDW, every few months, they're just laying their people off. I don't understand, because they seem to be doing well with their comics, but they keep letting people go. So Bleeding Cool reported this, just to be clear. It hasn't been confirmed, but usually like when they report on something this tangible, that's pretty solid. They reported that IDW laid off Mark Doyle and 3 other staffers. If you guys are like, sorry, I don't know behind the scenes, who are you talking about, Chris? Doyle has been the publisher at IDW since February of last year. So year and a half been the publisher. IDW seems to be selling pretty well because, so I have a note there that there's no official statement from IDW or news on who would step into the role. But look at this. Like, here's like the good and the bad that IDW has had lately.
Exactly.
They renewed Star Trek through next year. Ninja Turtles #1, over 300,000 copies. Huge debut.
Yeah.
They're publishing the last Alan Moore book, but they've also lost Jamie S. Rich and Scott Dunbier, who have each started their own comic book companies.
Right. Which I don't know if I'd recommend that course of action in this market, but it looks like fourth act or act 4 for Dunbier is basically essentially just doing his artist editions.
And continuing Walt Simonson's Ragnarok.
Yes.
I don't know what else. Yes, but artist editions for the most part. Yeah.
Which is his bread and butter. That makes sense. But yeah, I mean, that's the thing that I say, because people brought this up to me as well, where there were some layoffs at IDW, and Mark Doyle obviously was instrumental in a lot of different areas for them. Like obviously the Dark Spaces books and the horror line, and overall, I mean, like, were so good, and I believe he edited them as well. But the fact that IDW basically retained the license for Ninja Turtles, I feel like there has to be some. It is a great license, but I have to assume that they have like some kind of a vetting process where it's like, it's not just we have a great idea for Ninja Turtles. It's also like we're a company. We have this much revenue. We do well in this. Like, these are our projections for the next few years. Like,
yeah.
If I were Nickelodeon, I wouldn't license an IP to a company that I didn't think would exist long enough for the license to run out. So
yeah, now that you say that, that's interesting. I sort of forgotten that, not that Nickelodeon owned it, but that they're the same parent company as Paramount, CBS, which also would have Star Trek. So I guess they've just got a good relationship with that company.
I have to assume, yeah. But yeah, I mean, like, I think
that was a damn good book, Adam. Thank you. That was a good book this year.
That's true. Yeah, that was another feather in their cap. That was a big deal. Brought Patrick Horvath into a lot of people's homes.
I'm just like, how are they sort of? I understand streamlining a company, but they've had like several rounds of layoffs over the last couple of years, and I'm sort of like, how many people does it take to run a big company? Because like, I would think more than what they have. I don't know.
I actually don't know like how many people work at IDW or what they're, when you hear numbers, like they're like, we had another round of layoffs. And I'm like, yeah, but how, I mean, right now we have our number in our story right here is like 3, which, if they only published 2 books a month, I'd be like, well, that sounds like they probably lost like half their workworse. But, IDW makes a bunch of books, and they have a bunch of people working there. So I don't know. Yeah. It's interesting. And I also wonder, like, I not that I like want to speculate too much about like why, but I wonder what the algebra is on that one. You know what I mean? Like,
I do. Yeah, I do. I wish there was some more transparency, but
Yeah.
Look, ultimately, I am not wishing for anybody's downfall because I've heard great things about the Star Trek books. I
Yep.
do love Ninja Turtles a lot, and I think that they've been pretty good, better than pretty good. Like they've really maintained that comic in a great way for the last several years. So,
And they've put out consistently good stuff. You know, like it's like, again, the Dark Spaces books were great. Beneath the Trees has been fantastic. Ninja Turtles, I mean, at least the first issue has been awesome.
Oh, and Godzilla.
Godzilla has been really good. Like there's been a lot of really good stuff coming from them. And I feel like you would see more cracks in the Foundation if it was really, apocalyptic over there. I think it's just like, I think I don't know why, but it seems like Bleeding Cool kind of like, I never hear about any other publishers from Bleeding Cool. You know what I mean? Like about the inner goings on. Like you never hear about like any layoffs whatsoever about like what's happening at Marvel or about Dark Horse. I feel like Bleeding Cool really has a problem with IDW, and I don't know what it is.
I wonder. I've never considered that. Although I will say that they did talk about Boom Studios publisher stepping down. He's the one that teamed up with Jamie S. Rich to start an unnamed new company.
Their thing, yeah.
And I remember them reporting on
thing.
Yeah, I don't know.
That was an interesting thing too, because it was like a bunch of key people from other independent publishers were all leaving at the same time. That was interesting. That's worth it. That's worth an article.
You know what it could just be is maybe they've just got an insider at that one company.
Yeah,
you know what I mean? Like somebody there that's feeding them some of the news and gossip.
Right.
That might just be all.
Got another IDW story for you. I don't know. Yeah.
And this just for us. The same thing. So,
yeah. But the problem is, it just like what I'm disappointed by is like, because it is like it's constantly like, this.
Yeah.
It makes people think like, oh, IDW must be in trouble. And I'm like, I don't know. I mean, like the books are coming out and they got the
that's why I wanted to just put this statement at the bottom. It's like, yes, they've like laid some people off. It seems strange, but they've also been selling the comics that they have quite well. So I don't know.
Yeah.
Maybe Bleeding Cool is just trying to chase the news ever since, Transformers and G.I. Joe left. I don't know.
That could be. I mean, certainly that was
a lot of news.
That was a big news story. That was worth talking about, certainly.
Yeah. That's funny. Funny comment. First of all, thank you for the support. I really appreciate it. But I thought the henchwoman from Spawn sucked in the movie, but I like her as she Spawn. Okay, fair enough. I'll be honest. I only saw that movie once in the theater, and I don't remember it very well.
I saw it once in the theater too with my mom, which was a mistake because she was like, "This sucks." Like she was mad that we had to go to that movie. And I will tell you that movie does suck. It's a shame. It's a damn shame, that movie. Michael J. White is going for it. He and John Leguizamo are killing it. And everybody else failed them.
I do remember that, like their energy and their performance, but I also just sort of vaguely remember the end where they're seeing like Malbolgia, and I remember that like the movie was made like sort of so fast. I think that they had to reuse the CG model of American Werewolf in Paris and just like called it Malbolgia.
What I will tell you, I vividly recall about Malbolgia is that his mouth doesn't move or match what he says, and they were like, "Oh no, it's telepathy." I'm like, "You are a liar.
You just couldn't do anything."
Although I will say, like a lot of like the close-up stuff for Violator looked really cool. Like I remember, like when it wasn't plunged in darkness, it was like the same lighting guy from Spawn went on to light AVP Requiem or whatever the hell that movie was called, where it's just super dark and you can't see anything. Frank Welker's.
I didn't remember
that. I actually watched the scene from it recently, and I was like, "That's just Frank Welker doing a Doctor Claw voice."
Yeah. Sometimes I think it would be fun to like ask people like, "Hey, which actor has showed up in the most comic book movies and stuff?" And then I go, "Well, as soon as we count the animation, it's probably going to end up being Frank Welker." You know what I mean?
Frank Welker.
Because I'm like, well, Chris Evans has been like in this, and he voiced Casey Jones in the animated Ninja Turtles movie. And then I go, but if we're counting that, I'm like,
Oh no, Frank's got him beat by a country
so
mile.
I'm like, I'm not even gonna ask.
Yeah.
All right, we're almost done with the news here, folks. Berserk. Now, this is one of my personal favorite mangas. It makes me almost emotional thinking about it, because I love it so much. And it's slower to come out now. The original creator passed away. His best friend is the only guy that knows the story. He's guiding that, and Kentaro Miura's studio is basically drawing very, very accurately in his style. It's kind of beautiful that they're continuing it like this, but anyway, to me. We've got a release date for the next volume. Dark Horse is publishing this. It's going to come out March 19th, 2025. That's nice, because I did pick up the Japanese version the last time I was in Japan. It just happened to be new on the stand. So I've read it, but I've read it in Japanese, and so I don't quite get everything. It'll be nice to read it in English.
Definitely.
This is the first volume, folks, that doesn't have anything by the late Kentaro Miura. It's all by his studio. Here's Dark Horse's synopsis of what happens in this volume. The shocking appearance of Griffith on Elf Island has provoked rage and terror in Guts and Casca, and carved a rift into the enchanted isle itself, setting loose a corrosive horde of devourers from beneath the earth. If the Black Swordsman cannot rely upon even his legendary blade, then escape by ship seems like the only hope for survival, but not everyone is leaving Elf Island together. That only means something, I guess, if you've been reading it, but it sounds epic. And we are nearing the end goal of this story. So this is incredible. I don't suppose you've ever read any of this one.
We have it, but I have not. I've not really read much at all of Berserk.
That's fine. Just curious.
Yeah.
Do you read any manga these days?
No, I'm sorry.
None?
No,
Boy, I feel like there's a whole world there that you'd enjoy, Sal.
It is.
I'm not just saying that.
No, I believe it. I'm just, yeah.
You're like, I don't need to spend more money.
I really can't. That's true.
Fair enough. But yeah, there's anyway, it's just one that I love, so I'm always going to mention it in the news, but I'm biased. Oh, that's interesting. I haven't looked at the numbers. I'll take your word on that, Shikarijo, but that makes some sense too, because it has its fan base. I thought this one was supposed to be the last one. Oh, no, it's not the last one. They haven't really announced exactly how many, but I would guess it might make it as high as 50. It might. It might not, but we'll see. All right. As long as I'm talking about manga, oh my God, this story. Florida has made steps to ban an LGBTQ manga, but it's even kookier than it sounds at first. So... School board in Brevard County, Florida, received a complaint about a boys' love manga. It's called Sasuke and Miyano. I've flipped through it. It's pretty tame. Yeah, it's about two gay teenagers, but it's not like they actually like bang on in the book or anything like that, folks. You know, they're just more than friends.
I see. It's not a yaoi. Is
kind of. Yaoi is a little more extreme.
Yeah,
yaoi could be more extreme, but this is pretty tame stuff, to be honest.
Right.
The only thing that you could object to is if you just are like, no gay stuff, but it's nothing extreme, but I that's just my 2 cents. So what's funny to me about this is the person recommends something instead of this. And one of those is, what do you call it? Chainsaw Man. And Chainsaw Man I like, but folks, it is a dark manga. Chainsaw Man has like grooming and just tons of death and violence and stuff. It's just wild to me this is like the complaint letter in part. And the person's just like, I don't think anything referencing homosexuality should be in books that kids can read. Then here they're saying like, here are some other alternatives, and the first one is Chainsaw Man. And I was like, I don't think you've read that. I really don't.
They probably asked for maybe they asked for examples from their kids. They were like, what are some alternate non-gay related mangas out there? Like, oh well, obviously you got to go Chainsaw Man.
Chainsaw Man is good, CW. It's just that it's so much darker than what you think. Oh, what's this? Are you talking in this? Where's your wife?
Oh yeah, no, my wife just let me know that the dinner's ready.
Oh, well, we did say that, if you needed to take off, that
yeah, was, no, totally. But no, this is your hour. This is your time, man. I didn't want to interrupt. I mean, certainly not in the middle.
Dude, I'm having fun chatting with a second person live. That's all.
Yeah, but, no, it's a lot of fun. I'm having a blast.
Do you need to go?
I should probably get out of here soon.
That's.
But wait, do we have how many more topics do we have left?
3.
All right, yeah, I'll wrap it now. But Thank you so
and
much
then
for
I'm
having
going
me,
to
man.
review comics. So I'm still going to go for a little while.
You got it. You got time. You got work to do, my friend. But
dude, this is fun. Why don't
It's
we
been a blast.
recap since we're here? The day that the Terminator book comes out and the cutoff for ordering. What do you?
Yes. You will see when you go into your comic book store on October 9th, 1 week, I believe, before New York Comic Con, actually. You
Okay.
can pick up a copy of Terminator #1 from Dynamite with my backup alongside the incredible Declan Shalvey's main series. That will be launching October 9th. But if you want to pre-order it, you got up until September 16th. But again, you're welcome to go in your store on October 9th and pick it up off the shelf, but you're guaranteed a copy if you pre-order it by September 16th. So
smart advice. I was already planning on picking it up just because I love Terminator.
Me too.
Declan, I'm in. When I heard that you have this backup series running, I'm so happy for you, Sal. I think it's a great opportunity. I'm very excited to see what you are adding to the mythos. Congratulations.
It's mind-bending, my friend. Thank you so much for the kind words and for giving me this platform to tell your amazing audience about this opportunity. And you're right, it is an unbelievable opportunity. It's something I never in a million years could have imagined, and I'm on cloud nine.
Good. We'll see what happens from here, but look, I'll just say it. We already know Daniel Warren Johnson leaving Transformers after 24 issues.
Yeah.
Here we go. The next writer, probably, right?
Oh, yes.
Gonna follow up. I'm just giving you a hard time.
No.
I'm excited to read it, dude. We'll talk more, and I guess I'll have been able to read it by the time I see you at New York Comic Con.
That's right. Yeah. No, we'll do a whole thing. It'll be great. But I look forward to seeing you in October. I'll look forward to seeing you folks at the comic book stores. And thank you so much for letting me be here.
All right, dude. Have a good dinner. Thank you.
Bye, folks.
Bye. That was a lot more time than I had initially asked of Sal. So I'm grateful that he was willing to hang out and chat with all of us. That was definitely fun. That was fun. Can I write TMNT when Jason Aaron is finished? That would be nice if you could just ask for it. Let's go Mets. Oh no, the Red Sox lost. Sal is goated. Yeah, I was kidding about that. But who knows what this could lead to, you know? You never know. I'm happy for Sal. I think it's a great opportunity for him. And it sounds like he's done multiple pitches and revising of his work. So I also feel like Dynamite isn't just giving to somebody just to get a boost or something. You know what I mean? It's cool. Sal's great. He's a really friendly guy, and he knows a lot of comics. Let's wrap up the news, though. There's still a lot of fun stuff to talk about tonight. Marvel and Capcom crossover. If you grew up at a certain time, these games were so good. As far as fighting games go, this was always a blast. But a comic book? Well, let's talk about it. So, there's a game called Marvel vs. Capcom Fighting Collection Arcade Classics. That's going to be published digitally this month on the 12th, okay? Cool, we've got that. But a physical copy of the comic will come with the physical copy of the game when it comes out on November 22nd. So, you might be a huge fan of this and want to get the digital copy right away, but if you don't want to buy it twice, it might be worth waiting to November 22nd to get an original comic book with this. I think that's a pretty nice incentive, personally. I think I'm probably going to do that. So it's going to be a 32-page comic featuring characters from both Marvel and Capcom fighting. Just fun stuff. It's going to be available with the physical purchase of either the PS4 or the Switch version of the game. Yeah. Going to get the physical one. Right on. I'm surprised Capcom still wants to work with Marvel after the hard time Marvel gave them making that last game. Yeah, but it's all money, right? If they can make money, all is forgiven. Give me. chomping at the air over this like a hungry dog. And yeah, I think the second one was my favorite in the series. What franchise would you do? Thanks for the super chat, Steve. What could, I don't know. What, like a mashup of like comic books and fighting? You know, I have to admit, I think what Mortal Kombat is doing these days is kind of cool, where you can like get Hellboy or the Ninja Turtles or Omni-Man from Invincible, as well as like Terminator and Rambo. I kind of like that, but I like this animated style that they have. I love the pixel art there. If I would love to see like Capcom versus DC, that comes to mind. Yeah, that could be a lot of fun. I was going to mention that, but thank you for pointing that out. Yep, the cover is by Todd Knock. Getting that day one. Triple dipping. Digital on Switch and PS5 and physical on Switch. Oh my goodness, you are a fan. Mega Man once again being in everything except a new game. Yeah, this is sometimes how companies like maintain their trademarks and stuff and copyrights, by putting it in something that's not like just them, you know, but they're putting it out there and they can show, hey, I'm still like using my IP. Oh, I didn't hear about that. Adding Conan. DC versus Hanna-Barbera. Okay, now you've got me thinking, what about a wacky racers game? What about a racing game instead of a fighting game? And then you add some of the characters from, say, like DC or something. That could be fun. That could be a lot of fun. Capcom versus SNK is coming back. All right. Capcom versus Youngblood. So, could be fun. 20 years in the making. There's a lot of fans of both franchises as well as the previous games, so I think it makes sense to bring it back. I think having an original comic is a good incentive. Wait, what? I don't know Multiversus, but a couple people are mentioning there's the Multiversus game and they're making a comic soon too. I don't know what that is. It totally missed me. Hanna-Barbera versus G.I. Joe. I love G.I. Joe. They want to give me like, you know what they should do? Like, just take something like Call of Duty and just skin it to be G.I. Joe, so that we see like their vehicles and headquarters and troops and stuff like that. I think that would be really cool. All right, let's see. Oh, Multiversus is a fighting game with Warner Brothers characters, which includes Hanna-Barbera. Did not know that. Got it. Did not know that. I'm not a huge fighting games guy, though, if I'm being honest. I've just never been really good at memorizing combos. I'm going to take out my earbud now because I'm not talking to Sal anymore. So I'm not great at them. I just like playing them every once in a while casually. Oh, if you have a Disney Plus account, I'm just putting this out there for those that already have it, that you're entitled to a free comic. It's pretty easy to get. So Disney Plus subscribers have until tomorrow, the end of tomorrow, September 3rd, to get a free digital copy of Marvel's 85th anniversary special. That was a book that was out on shelves in print this week. I didn't buy it, but I'll probably get it for free digitally later tonight. So all you do is you get the Marvel Unlimited app, but use your Disney Plus login info. And boom, it just automatically gives it to you. And then the stories in it are from Marvel's past, present, and future. Creators like Alan Davis, huge fan. Ryan North, he's doing great stuff on Fantastic Four. And Iman Vellani, who I've really enjoyed what she's been doing with Ms. Marvel. Thank you, The Calico. Much success to the channel. Stop by Sigma Comics and Small Press at New York Comic Con. Oh, okay. We'll hook you up with Here Comes Calico, our flagship title on Kickstarter now. Well, good luck to you. That's awesome. So that's just something you can get for free if you already have Disney Plus. Let's wrap it up with Jen Bartel kind of just I wouldn't call it spilling the tea. I'd say like just being very open and transparent about her situation, which hopefully is going to make things a little easier for other people to negotiate. So let's tell the story, and then this image will make more sense in context. August 29th, Jen Bartel took to Twitter to post this. She revealed that Marvel didn't pay her anything for using her artwork here for their Marvel Snap game. Now, to be clear, she had originally done this artwork for Lords of the Empire, Emperor Hulkling #1. It was the cover. She was paid for it, and Marvel's contract specifically says they're allowed to continue to use it in other forms and mediums. She's not arguing that. She's just saying, wish I actually got paid for these, when somebody's talking about how cool they were. You're not obligated to if that's what the contract says, but that doesn't necessarily make it morally right. Then there were lots of comments telling Jen things like, well, you should understand that that's what the contract says, which I'm pretty sure she does understand that. She's not making a huge fuss saying like, this is bullshit. You know, she's just saying, wish I got paid for it. That's all she said. And then there were a lot of comments. So a lot of them supportive too, just to be clear. You know, she's like, hey, I signed the contract when I was more of an emerging artist. I understood the terms. I'm not saying that they were wrong or that I went in and made a mistake. I'm just saying I wish that they did right by me. Okay. Then, yeah, I saw Donnie tweet that too. Donnie Cates this week. Somebody said, do you get like paid residuals on the upcoming Thor omnibus? And he posted like an animated GIF of Ron Burgundy just going, we are laughing. All right. So then in the replies, Jen was asked if this was at all related to why she stopped doing covers for She-Hulk. She was doing such great covers for She-Hulk. She's a great artist. She really is. And she added, quote, the very few times I asked for even a small pay raise over a 4-year period, the answer was no. What would you do if your employer never gave you even a modest salary bump in nearly half a decade? So there it is. That's why she stopped doing She-Hulk covers. She was just like, I'd like to get a little bit more. No. Okay. Then you don't get like one of the top cover artists in the business. It's, you know, you post something like this and that may burn some bridges for Jen. I don't know. I hope it doesn't. I hope her talent speaks for itself and she continues to get opportunities that are fair. But I'm really grateful that she would say something like this so that like other artists can just know what the experience is and go in with more information and maybe just go like, hey, I'm also not getting a raise. Maybe I need to, you know, respect myself and take a different opportunity. So, yeah, I agree. Like, you know, this thing is one, right? Reusing art, that is one thing. But the other thing of like, you know, advocating for yourself and asking for a raise and not getting one, well, I think that she did right by herself. I think she did right by herself. Not paying what she's worth to lock it down is patently crazy. You know, her work sells. Her work sells books. There's no question. I mean, if it didn't, Marvel wouldn't be using it in other areas. You know what I mean? Oh, I've never played Marvel Snap, so I didn't realize that that's what it did, is just reuse lots of old art. It's too bad. It's too bad. Let's see. You'd think after 7 of their biggest artists left to form Image 30 years ago that Marvel would treat their creators better. But then Ed Brubaker, Rick Remender, and Jen Bartel show they haven't. Look, I'd still probably, you know, I'd probably enjoy working on a Marvel character with them. I just have to go in knowing that I'm probably not going to get like residuals or extra pay or anything. Larry Hama has been very open about how, you know, his G.I. Joe work there, he doesn't get like, you know, he never got like any extra sort of bump in pay or anything like that or any residuals until he now started at Skybound. And he's like, Skybound actually gives me residuals on reprints and like, you know, pay increase and stuff. It's nice. Home to Europe next week, so no live chat. Okay, well, thanks for jumping in. Appreciate it. Really do. Well, that's that. Let's see. Yeah, we've already been going almost 2 hours, but there's a lot of comics that came out, and I want to talk about at least some of them. So let me turn on another camera here. I'm going to adjust this. So give me a moment here. I know this is an awkward shot, but give me a moment to focus. Ooh, that looks good. Put that there. And I'll add another camera. Let's see. I'm going to close out a window and present extra camera. Extra. How many cameras can you have? Tons. All right. Wait, it doesn't quite look in focus, actually. Let me fiddle with this. There, that looks better. Yeah. Okay. Big week in comics, folks. Look, these were all things that I picked up this week. Lots of comics. Lots of comics. I can't talk in deep depth about every single one, but I will start off talking about a book that I really love, The Last Mermaid, issue 6. You know, I really think that this is a book that you could jump into at any point and still sort of pick up and understand where the adventure is. Plus, it doesn't hurt that there's actually a small recap in the beginning. But the art is just so vibrant and colorful and action-packed. Boy, do I enjoy this. There's something... I've said before that it reminds me a little of manga pacing. But there's also something about The Last Mermaid that really feels like you're looking at a cartoon, an animation, but in a different form. Like, you know, it's obviously still images, but it just really flows. And most of the panels are rectangular in like a similar aspect ratio to what you might see on TV or a movie theater screen. And it's an interesting experience. Like there's a feeling to it. There's a flow. There's a flow that I really appreciate. And that's sometimes hard to put into words. But boy, do I really like the character development. I like the world that this takes place in. The idea of a mermaid sort of stuck in this powerful mech, but where the water, you know, is going to get toxic every once in a while because it just gets dirty and used. And she's got to make her way across a desert. I love this. This is something that made me sort of think of like animation where the mermaid is explaining her past a little bit to Torque, this ally that she's come across in. And I love how Derek Kirkim zooms in on her face, but also fades it out so that there's like this ocean. And we know that that's representational. And she's like got a memory. It's like a vague memory, a child's memory. So everything's in silhouettes. And the colors are different. It's so good. It's an animated vibe. Yeah. I know it drives me nuts that it's going on hiatus too, because this is just, it's just one of the books I love right now. I love it. I love it. Yeah, I strongly recommend. So the trade paperback comes out next month. If you haven't read it yet, that's probably the best way to read it. You'll get the first 6 issues. There's just so much to appreciate about this. It's a cool experience. And, you know, I talked to Derek a little bit. And in this, we get introduced not just to mutants. We already had mutants in this world, but we get introduced to a mammoth, which is like, you know, just a giant mutant. Something you'd see, not quite Attack on Titan level, but still a mammoth. And I go, oh, you know, we've got a post-apocalyptic story here, Derek, and you've got these new mammoths. I go, was that inspired by Fist of the North Star? You know, famous post-apocalyptic manga. And he goes, he's like, it's an interesting idea, but he goes, I really just was creating a character to make a new threat for the character. And I go, oh, that makes a lot more sense. Yes, you're actually thinking out your story and constructing what's the next thing that the hero needs to do. So anyway, yeah, I'm sorry. It is going on a hiatus. Yeah, I know. I hope that the trade paperback sells well enough to justify a short hiatus, and that we'll come back with more, because it really is a great book. The pacing is unique. The colors are so vibrant. There's just a lot. I hope you will consider getting the trade, because, selfishly, this is a book I enjoy. I want it to sell well so that I can get as much of it as possible. That's all. But Derek is working on another thing. He's not writing and drawing it. He's writing this. It's called Royals. He's got a book coming out in April. Twin brothers in South Korea that have perfected a poker hustle because they've got a telepathic connection. But then a criminal syndicate gets onto them, and then they're on the run. That could be fun. Art by somebody named Jacob Perez. So anyway, strongly recommend this. The Last Mermaid. Post-apocalyptic, but post-apocalyptic that isn't necessarily about visiting all the ruined and things from humanity that are gone. It's more just a fantasy setting that's dangerous. As dangerous as you could imagine it being for the main character, because she's a mermaid. So that's one that I really, really recommend. This seemed like a fun idea, and guess what? It was. Aliens versus Avengers. Well, if Marvel has the rights to this stuff, I like that they're doing crazy bonkers things like this. I was also impressed with What If, where they took the idea of what if Paul Reiser's character from the second movie, Aliens, what if he didn't die? And they tell that character's story, which ends up being pretty cool. But this one it's sort of a what if story too, to be clear. It is the Xenomorphs versus Avengers, but here's the thing. It takes place in a near future, okay? And we can tell that right off the bat, because these guys that look like Shi'ar alien doctors and scientists are experimenting with xenomorphs, and they're like, some ships are attacking us. What kind of spaceships? And they say Wakandan. Well, Wakanda is pretty advanced, but they don't have a spaceship fleet. But here they've got a bunch of Black Panther soldiers and stuff, and they break in, and these aliens, the Shi'ar scientists, are experimenting with xenomorphs. And not just that, they have seeded something like 20 worlds with eggs. It turns out that they are not Shi'ar, just to be clear. They're actually what do you call them? Androids. And there's T'Challa. He's now sort of an old man, and he finds out that one of the worlds that they've sent eggs to is Earth. And then we jump forward. I'm going to just pause here to show this. This is done in almost ASCII text, so it's like the AVA. There's a couple cool elements to this. Aliens versus Avengers, but this looks like the Weyland-Yutani logo from the Alien movies. And by being done in this text format, it looks visually like the retro old computers that they use in those movies. So this works on some thematic levels, as well as just being a cool logo design. This book looks all right, but $7.99 for an Elseworlds book is a bit much. It is $7.99. It's also a bit bigger than a typical book, to be clear. It's pretty big. I don't know exactly how many pages. I'm going to guess something like 32. Anyway, it's got older heroes in a world where the aliens did make it to Earth and conquered almost all of it. They've got like one mega city that's being protected by characters like Bruce Banner, Captain Marvel, Miles Morales, and Valeria Richards, Mr. Fantastic and Invisible Woman's incredibly smart daughter. But she's like in her 40s now, so that gives you a ballpark idea. It's about 30 some years in the future. Oh, I want to sort of like tell one of the twists, but I won't. Let's just say that something new happens with a face hugger that we haven't seen before, okay? It's pretty fun. I know, I'll be honest, I had missed how expensive that was. But it is like it's not quite 2 comics, but it's like a comic and a half. So these days where comics do start at like $5 for like $3 more, the price is about right. It's a bigger than typical story. I do get that $8 is a lot to lay down for a story that you probably go through pretty quickly. But that unfortunately is comics. And, you know, we either love it or we don't. We love it or we don't. You saying it's pronounced Shi'ar Empire? They probably pronounce it on that X-Men 97 show, don't they? I guess I just didn't pay attention, so I just created it. I don't know how they're immune to magic and stuff like that. We don't get to see them fight like Thor and Doctor Strange and stuff. But I think, you know, they could maybe they'll still like have a line of dialogue in a future issue that sort of explains it, but also that would just sort of block the story from moving forward. So, you know, maybe we just say, hey, they just got overwhelmed before they even knew what was happening. You know, something like they were asleep and a ton of aliens. We're told that a lot of aliens are on Earth. Okay, they're just totally overwhelmed. They slowly set up how fast they can breed and grow. So that part is at least explained a bit. And this is just like a throwaway panel or something, but the one person that kind of liked it was Apocalypse. Like it says that, it does say that the X-Men just decided to peace out and just like use Krakoa to go to Mars, where they've got like an outpost, and they were just like, we're just going to be mutants and like live in our own society. We're not part of this story anymore. But Apocalypse did stay because he's all about survival of the fittest. And we don't know exactly what happened, but we just sort of get this small thing. And I was like, yeah, that does sound like an Apocalypse thing. So that's worth a page. That's worth a page to sort of give us like just that idea. But realistically, even he would probably have been overwhelmed. Even he would have been. So it's just sort of fun because you get a good mix in this that feels a lot like an alien story where something creepy is happening, something that people don't understand and gets out of place. So you've got a little bit of a horror, and then you've got a little bit of the action that came with the second movie, Aliens, when all of a sudden, say, Hulk just decides to start smashing aliens. But they don't skip on the fact that they've got acid blood. It's a blast. It's a blast. Yeah, it's just a standalone thing. It's just, Marvel has some characters that are roughly equivalent to what you can do with the Xenomorph. Dire Wraiths could be one. You could also argue that the Brood from X-Men is very much a knockoff. Anyway. Not going to spoil anything. I'm done. There's a lot of stuff that happens, and it's a blast. Oh, and by the way, Asad Ribic, I hope I'm pronouncing that name right. I'll just say again, beautiful artwork, really good. Can I get this to focus? That glossy paper I'm not a big fan of glossy paper. Even when I like sit down and read these on like, you know, the couch or something like that, I'm like tilting my comic to find the right angle because like the glossy reflection will literally block me from reading it easily. Anyway, good amount of realistic detail versus like fun action sort of poses. Gotta have it down here to see it properly. It still doesn't look like it's quite focused to me. Let me zoom in a little more and see. There. That's good. I'll just have it zoomed in a little more. Anyway, I can understand the concern over $8. It's a lot to lay down. At the same time, that's about the same as you lay out for your standard distillery comic. Actually, that's $9, and that is a lot, but it's. I'd still say it's worth it these days for a comic. I'd still say it's worth it. I feel like now I'm zoomed in too much. All right. I can't show you too much of this issue of Ultimate X-Men because it actually starts to explain stuff about the villains and the mythology of mutants in this world a little bit. This is the Ultimate Universe. We don't quite know the history of it. We've just got a bunch of Japanese teenagers investigating mysterious symbols and a mysterious villain who basically is this book's version of the Shadow King. And he's very creepy. The original Shadow King was scary because he was just a powerful telepath. You know, that was enough. But this is a powerful telepath who's a pretty average, but a little bit disaffected teenager in school. And wow, I found him very disturbing in his own way. I found him very disturbing because he hasn't like really, I don't think, lost it yet, but there's always this sort of like growing shadow around him, and in this he's like supposedly under control, but he, if mother is happy, my family is happy. And I really wonder if he's even unconsciously using his psychic powers to make her be happy. He's also obsessed with the main character in this, Hisako, who is also known as Armor. But this actually has some superpower fights. That's new. And I think that Peach and Zach Davison are creating a really interesting story here. I can't go too far into it without basically spoiling what it is. But I will also point out that I love that the last page always gives you like a few bits of Japanese culture and history and how it ties into like, you know, just background elements of the story. Yes, I think it is the best title in the Ultimate line because it's truly using an opportunity to tell a different type of story, a story where mutants feel a little bit more supernatural. Like there is some science stuff going on in the background, but you know, we've got like cults and a character that acts almost more like a ghost than anything else. So Ultimates is your favorite. Ultimates, like basically like issues 2 and 3 were like much cooler than even issue 1. So it's going in a good direction. It's not really a team yet, although there's some stuff in this that hints towards the Children of the Atom. But we do have a lot of characters that are mutants that are working together in this. We've got Hisako Ichiki, who's Armor. We've got May, who's May Storm. Nico Minoru. Mori. Natsu Tsukishima. And Noriko Ashida. Of these, Armor is an X-Man character. Nico Minoru is from Runaways. So is Molly, or in this, Mori. And Surge has also been in the X-Men. So, and Shadow King has been an enemy. So like these are a couple new characters and a couple that are like repurposed Japanese mutants. They're all mutants in the mainstream one. So yeah, I can totally see what you're talking about with that. It's hard to describe because it really does feel like a different comic. And if you don't enjoy sort of, you know, a comic with a lot of Japanese culture and history, I mean, it takes place in Japan. Maybe it's not for you, but I think that background helps just make it feel authentic to the artist, and that authenticity is appreciated. Yeah, Storm exists as Storm within the Ultimate Black Panther title. In this, we've got May Storm, who has somewhat similar powers, and I think is supposed to be a fan of Storm. No, I can totally see though, like the villain in this is very similar to the disaffected guy known as the Friend in 20th Century Boys. Yeah, right now this is one of my favorite X titles too. Nico was in Marvel's Midnight Suns. Oh, okay. She was originally from Runaways, but yeah. What else was I won't go into like a deep dive, but I will just again reiterate that Fantastic Four is one of my favorite books right now. This is the second of a 2-part story. Everything from issues 1 through 24 has either been a 1 or a 2-part story, and it all has a scientific mystery. And the villain in this is just this alien, which doesn't really look that threatening, but she's really clever and really ruthless. You know, it's basically just a squid. It's not that scary looking. I swear, if they had just decided to make this look like, I don't know, a buff barbarian with all the same sort of like history and the science mystery, every writer after this would be trying to grab this villain and use them in the future. Instead, she's really just intended to be a one-off villain, but she's very effective. And yet, once again, this shows the characters being clever, doing investigation, using their powers in a special way, ending on a hopeful note when things seem like really, really scary. Great, great title. Really, really good. Tentacled monsters could be scary, but this one's kind of small and not like, super slimy or anything. Just, about human size. I mean, maybe that scares you. I don't know. It's not really meant to be super scary, but this issue is awesome. It's always been my favorite book of the week. It's up there in the running for literally like, maybe like a top 3 run on Fantastic Four. It's really hard for me to like judge exactly where it should fall right now, since we're in the middle of it. There's no objectivity there, but it's good. It's really good. I think that when you talk about the best Fantastic Four runs, you'd have to look at Lee and Kirby, whatever the breakdown was like of responsibility there was. I don't know, but it's a great run. A lot of creativity. The John Byrne run, I think, is very strong. I think the Walt Simonson run is very strong. But this is way up there. This is so good. I was on the edge of my seat the whole issue, which doesn't always happen with comics. I agree. I mean, it really, like, it goes from a place where last issue, it looked like Earth was in like a desperate, like, on a situation that you couldn't understand, couldn't comprehend, and was like very dangerous. Well, they've sort of resolved that part, but now they make it more intimate by literally focusing all the way down on the one in the most danger is Reed Richards himself. Yeah, it's kind of scary what happens with him. Okay, so people are maybe talking about like some of their favorite. It is a little bit like a Dalek Mutant, some of their favorite runs. That's a Steve Englehart, huh? Walter Simonson, Byrne. First time watching, followed the link that Sal put in his. Well, I appreciate that very, very much. Thank you. This is a weekly show here, and then I've got an edited show that I do on the channel Comic Tropes. But this is just to talk about comics of the week and news within comics of the week. Thank you for joining. Lee Kirby, Byrne, Wade, Hickman. Oh, the Hickman run was very strong. And I did like the Mark Waid run, especially with Mike Waringo on art. But even though I liked it a lot, I wouldn't quite elevate either. Boy, those are all really strong runs. Personally, I put Walt Simonson in there too. I don't know. I don't know. Yes, and I do a movie show on this channel sometimes. Yes. And it's just fun that we also are getting these painted covers. That's cool. It's great. Saga earns its title because we're 68 issues in, and the characters really do evolve. And to even highlight some of that evolution, we've got Alana, who's now a mother. We've got a flashback to her childhood where her father was apparently a pretty wealthy businessman that did everything he could to keep his daughter from joining up in the army, which is basically what started her down this wild path of being like a on the run during a galactic war. I never would have guessed like that was her background, but it helps highlight not just who Alana is, but how she literally tries to make some decisions that would be different than her parent, which I think a lot of people do. You know, they go like, this was a failing of what my parent did, so I'm going to do things differently for my kid. But sometimes you can overcorrect. So for instance, instead of being like, you know, like really on top of like exactly what her kid does, Alana is way more hands off in terms of letting them hang out with whoever they want to. She's letting her personal experience dictate that. And what we're getting hints that her daughter Hazel's new friend might not be the best friend to hang out with, that she might be a bad influence. She's this spider alien. They get along well. It's not like they do anything that bad here, but there are hints that she might be a little bit of a bad influence. We get all sorts of subplots in Saga because there've been so many different characters. It's great how it interconnects and brings history back, and it really helps show. It helps show how people make their decisions in this issue and how their past influences their decision-making process. That's a pretty big thing to cover, but it isn't like explicitly saying this in boring dialogue. We're just seeing characters' actions, and we're seeing small bits of their history, and we are trusted to put that together and understand why they're making these big decisions. Oh, I think that Alana is being too hands-off at this point, especially with her son. Her adopted son is like from something called the Robot Empire, and he's being left to his own devices. He's a moody teenager, you know. He's like hanging out by himself a lot, and Alana's giving him a lot of space to do that, even though she's aware that he seems disaffected. But he might be getting some dangerous ideas about, like, you know, how he sees himself in this world. Saga is an all-time fave. I like it a lot too. It's probably not for everybody, but it really does earn its like title. It's such an epic journey. Such an epic journey. I don't blame you for that. It's very satisfying to read it in a big story. Yeah, I'm afraid so. And it's really tragic because he's part of a family now, and it seemed like he was on a really good path. But I think that, you know, as he's growing up, he's making decisions that are isolating himself. And he doesn't know that because he doesn't have the perspective to know that. But he's making decisions that isolate himself, which is, I think, a lot of us can just sort of understand, because even if we don't feel disaffected, all of us can feel lonely from time to time and go and we don't know that if it's like, you know, is it the world? Is it what is it my decision-making process? Why do I feel lonely right now? His own devices. Yes. So that's what's interesting, is like, you know, these are aliens and they meet like all sorts of weird creatures, like, you know, in this one, they've got a lion man, and I showed you there was a spider woman, and there's a snake woman. You know, it's silly in some ways, and yet it's so relatable. The characters themselves are very relatable. So I like that contrast of sort of surreal, almost furry people throughout this whole world, but like a very grounded, relatable story. And the whole background is just the entire world is at war. I say world, and I mean their world. It's the galaxy and stuff. If you haven't been reading Something is Killing the Children, it's not a bad time to jump in right now. The current arc is about one-shot flashback stories to help explain our main character, Erica Slaughter. So it's a decent place to jump in. Last time she was meeting with a therapist, but really just to get information on kids in a town that were like getting killed by monsters. And in this one, it talks more explicitly about how she was raised by one of these monster hunters named Jessica, who was self-destructive, and basically her adopted brother. Aaron and Erica don't really get along very well at all, but they actually do also care for each other a lot. It's kind of beautiful in a weird way. And Aaron is able to get Erica to open up just this tiny little notch here. I'm trying to remember. There was a phrase in this that I wanted to say. I will say also that there's a background story of an adventure that she's recently wrapped up, and it involves guns and kids, and it's very tragic, but very, very plausible in how something could happen. Where was that line that I wanted her to say? Let me see if I can find it without spoiling everything. I guess I should have noted it. I should have put like a sticky or something, or just written it when I had something. Basically, though, Aaron talks to Erica and says, look, Jessica, the lady that raised us, was a really great person. You know, she took care of us in a lot of great ways, but she was self-destructive because she drank. You don't drink, but you take too much responsibility on yourself, and that's also being self-destructive. You need to let this go if this is what you do. It's pretty amazing. Oh, that's so cool. Thank you for joining. Appreciate it. Something is Killing the Children is dense. It has a lot going on that, I mean, it's a horror comic, and right now we're just sort of at an arc where the horror isn't really necessarily coming from the external sources of monsters, and we're not instead we're seeing the horror of what can happen with, like, you know, mental illness or the danger of weapons in small kids' hands, things like that. Very realistic in its own way, even though there's monsters in this story. I love this book, and I'm really, I think Werther Dell'Edera just has such a confident, unique style, you know? At first, this art may not even appeal to you, but I will say that because it's so consistent and clear, as you continue, boy, it's grown on me. I'll say that. It's grown on me a lot, because early on, this book had a lot of 2-page spreads across 2 pages, and it would get confusing sometimes, like what order I was supposed to read it in. But I think that, like, he sort of got some of that out of his system in a way, and has a very a much more eloquent style. Much more eloquent style. I won't go through all of these. I can't. It's too much. But I do want to mention Frankenstein, okay? This is from Skybound's deal with Universal. So they're basically doing adaptations of those old 1930s and 40s monster movies, but finding a new angle on it, a new way to present it. But it's based on the movie version specifically, as compared to, say, an adaptation of the original book, Frankenstein or Dracula or something. This is by Michael Walsh, who I understand did a horror book that's, I want to say it's called like, what is it? The Silver Coin? Am I remembering that right, folks in the chat? That has a lot of acclaim, but I have not read. But I think I understand why. I appreciate you stopping by. First of all, really, really good art. Really good. Look how lots of thick blacks, but not necessarily as angular as or what do I want to say? Like when Mike Mignola throws down lots of blanks, it's more impressionistic sometimes, and this is still a little more realistic. But that's a great low angle of like Dr. Frankenstein and his assistant pulling up a body. So it looks like the angle to this is going to be more showing Dr. Frankenstein's work in assembling his creature by focusing on who were the people that assembled this monster. And this is a young boy who's lost his only family, his father, and he was like mourning him, and his father gets dug up to be part of this monster. So the kid is sort of like, you know, observing this from a new angle. It's all the same story that's happened in the movie, but it's just from another angle, and it's stunning how sad some of this is. The kid sneaking up and holding his dead father's hand, even though he knows he's gone. And of course, you know, like these are basically early experiments and stuff. But I think that once the monster comes into existence, that's something. That's something. And look at how scary this is. It's just like one shot, but like showing what does Dr. Frankenstein do with all the body parts he's not going to use? You know, he made Frankenstein up of many bodies. So I think there's a shot of the monster that I really like. I got the blank cover. I don't know if I'll have anybody draw on it or not, but I wanted the option when I saw it. It's good art. It's interesting too that it's got color. Because, of course, the original was black and white, although you will note that the colorist uses primarily one color at a time. So it still gives a bit of an impression of, you know, like sort of a two-color experience or duotone almost. I think it looks like this is setting up a story to tell, like, okay, what was the monster made of? Not just the physical parts, but the emotions that were attached to these people, like a child's love for his father. That's a tragedy, but there's going to be other people that comprise the monster. And I think we're going to get stories of like the different parts and what kind of people those were. And maybe that will almost help explain what the creature is a little bit more. Like there's almost like there's a part of the soul that would be attached to even something like the hands. You know, it's not the heart, it's not the brain, it's not the eyes, these organs that we associate so much with who we are. But I really like this, actually. I've generally been enjoying the Skybound Universal monsters. The Dracula one was interesting as an experiment. I didn't love it. Creature from the Black Lagoon I thought was like a fun adventure. Although it only got sort of scary right at the very, very end. But so this started off on a really great dark tone, and it seems like it's both telling us the story of the movie from a different perspective, and also telling us something about the creature that maybe we didn't know before. Oh, that would be lovely. I hope it does sound intriguing, because I'm encouraged, and I know I've only said nice things so far about the books I've reviewed, but that's because I just front loaded the ones that I liked the most this week. I did hear about 2 Frankenstein movies coming out. Yeah. As he drifted away, I could just make out his final words. It's okay if you just call me Frankenstein instead of Frankenstein's monster. I really don't mind. That's the ending that everybody forgets. What else? Void Rivals, Drawing Blood, The Sacrificers. This is getting a little bleak for me. I hope that this gets a little bit more into a little bit of high fantasy. This is a very dark story. Batman Off-World, great way of looking at the character in a new way. Blood Squad 7 finally moves forward and creates pretty much a new version of the team, which, just to be clear, is sort of like a modern day take on Youngblood. Not celebrities, but government-sponsored superheroes. Grommets. Oh my God, this is so relatable and so real. It's funny. It's heartbreaking. This is one of my favorite books right now. This is one of the best things Rick Remender's done in a while. But let's just wrap it up by talking instead about White Boat. And Distillery in general to a degree. So this is the second of 3 issues. Scott Snyder, Francesco Francavilla. I love their book called Night of the Ghoul. Night of the Ghoul. Originally done for Comixology, done in print by Dark Horse, showed that they can do horror together very well. Scott Snyder gets thought of a lot for superhero stuff just because of, what he did with Batman and what he's about to do with Batman again. But he's really good at horror. So this is $9 and it's 48 pages. So basically you get 2 monthly comics all at once. In other words, instead of $10, $9, it's about right for the price. It's a lot to spend up front. The only other thing is also I think it takes a little more than a month to come out. So I wish it came out a little faster. I feel like that they should probably just do it instead at the $4 to $5 price point, 22 pages. I think that just, it's kind of proven to work. So I don't think that they've necessarily improved that. But this is a great, scary sort of book. And what we're learning as the story continues, in the first issue, we thought that there was some very supernatural stuff going on, mysterious stuff. But this seems to imply that it's mostly scientifically based. It's all human threats. It's about a man who, as a child, lost his twin brother at sea. But these super wealthy people are like, no, actually, your brother is still alive, and we're going to take you to see him. And of course, how could you possibly believe that, But then he starts encountering some very strange stuff on this island. Very strange stuff. This is a giant lady, but a monstrous one. It all starts to make sense, believe it or not. I was really impressed with how much this started tying together, but giving us some scary imagery. The scientists are just way too overtly kind and also confident in what they're doing. But they're messing with the human genome. They're explicitly saying that they are. It's just a bad idea. They're trying to be gods. They're literally saying that they're trying to evolve man into a god, to make him more than what his body is, and make him immortal, but also make him only feel kindness and not anger or anything like that. I like this book anyway. I really do. It's a great story. It looks cool. It's creepy. It's about man's hubris. It's about loss. Was it late? Is that why it took so long? I didn't know if it was on time or not. I've heard such good things about Somna, so maybe that's the one I should have tried instead. I didn't want to read every single distillery book. And I'll also admit that the first one I read was by a creator I really like, Jock. He does a sci-fi book called Gone. Wasn't super feeling the story, though. I don't know. I tried Life from Distillery. Do not recommend. Interesting. They're definitely getting top tier creators, but as to and kind of letting them go loose, just go nuts, do what you want to do. I don't know if that's a good idea or not. I really don't. You thought it said white boot. Oh, it is called. Yeah, I could see that. If you didn't know going in, you're right. That's hard to guess as an A. That is hard to guess. Huh. Whoops. Not enough hubris, or did I say that? If that's what I said, Jeannie, what I probably meant was not enough humility, that they have too much hubris. So if I said it that way, I apologize. I wasn't thinking clearly. But tell you what, for you, since you're here, I'll have a swig of this. By the way, Jeannie, it's just diet. There's no sugar in this. Don't get that mad at me for having a little bit of caffeine here and there. Did you get Savage Sword of Conan with the setup for the battle for the Blackstone? No. Been having trouble. I should have been putting it on my pull list. I think I should have, but I didn't. So for Conan specifically, I've been more getting it in trade. I got the first couple of issues individually, and then I fell behind. I'm still behind, but I did get the first trade, and I think that's just what I'll continue to do at this point. Sometimes for books I have to get the trade. I don't know if Conan himself is mad at me, so I'll ask him. Conan, is it okay that I'm only getting your trade paperbacks? Oh my God. Okay, he's very happy. Jesus. Didn't expect that. I was making fun of you not liking the other book, so I was asking if it didn't have enough hubris. Got it. Yes, that was the problem. A book needs to have just the right amount of hubris. I love a lot about what Distillery is doing in terms of the creators they have. I like overall this format. I know it's more square. That doesn't bother me. I've never been as into the collecting aspect. So, that may not help books like White Boat and Last Mermaid, since so many of our books are rectangles and have like bags and boards and boxes designed for them. That may not help like get new readers, but I like reading things in different formats personally. I love when I go to say a comic convention or something and go to Artist Alley and the people there have maybe self-printed books and done it in unique ways. I got that one issue of Radiant Black that folds out like an accordion. So like the entire comic is all on the front and back of like basically one long page. No, I don't know what Stand Still is. Titan is publishing Conan. Jim Zub is the writer, and he's doing a great job. Great artists on it too. Great artists. I've heard everybody likes Conan that's reading it. Everybody. I think I'll draw a little, but I'll also. I'm looking at like this the viewers, and the count is dropped because I've had like a long episode. I get that. I do. I need to do a thumbnail for an upcoming episode of Trash Movie Bonanza. And I started one last week and I just really didn't like how it was looking, so I bailed on it. That's what I do sometimes. But I'll draw for a little bit, and basically if anybody's got a question about the show or the news or comics that came out, now is the time to do it. Treat this like basically an AMA. Ask me anything. But I reserve the right not to choose it if I think that I don't want to answer it. I flipped through that. I saw, a manga take on Popeye. I like Popeye quite a bit. So I flipped through it. I was like, yeah, it's okay. It's not quite my style, but I'm open to it. But then I just felt like they were just sort of hitting all the big characters as compared to building out the humor of, I don't know. So it just didn't seem like it was for me, but whatever. It's like a crossover between Popeye and One Punch Man. Maybe it's good. I don't know. I passed. Oh, thank you so much for watching. We had a lot of fun on the latest one, folks. Jim and I talk about 2 movies that basically involve giant monsters. My choice was a Gamera film, who's sort of like the cheap version of Godzilla movies. And this was a very cheap one, so it's very ridiculous. But Jim really picked a stellar one about a giant dinosaur. It was called Tammy and the T-Rex. Just bizarro. I haven't tried any of the Proco classes, although they've gotten some amazing professionals to work on them. I've heard from a bunch of people that they really enjoyed Rook. I haven't read that one. I read the first thing that Ghost Machine published, which was sort of like a sampler of all their books. And Rook did seem somewhat interesting. Maybe I'll get it in trade paperback if people talk it up enough. Right now, the only Ghost Machine book I'm getting is Redcoat, which I do enjoy. Oh, what kind of bailing do you like the most? Bailing on projects, bailing on a sinking dinghy, or bailing out your troublemaking friend? I like bailing out my troublemaking sister. She's a real rascal that's always getting into trouble, and I'm always having to bail her out of jail. My sister goes to jail a lot. So if any of her employers are listening, oh my God, my sister goes to jail all the time. I'm just kidding. My sister's great. There's an MST3000 episode about that Gamera movie. I would like to watch that. I have not seen that. I think I should have it ready this coming weekend. Just to be clear, I am going to Rose City Comic-Con on Saturday in Portland. So I'll just mention, if anybody here is in the Pacific Northwest area and is on the fence, if you order a ticket for Rose City Comic-Con, for the promo code, if you put in tropes, you get $5 off. But I am going to be there on Saturday. But I think I can get it done by Sunday. I hope so. It was only one time. Wasn't even one time. She's kidding. Oh, that sounds fun. Schematics. That's really cool. You probably don't recognize this character that I'm drawing. He's a really obscure character called Jason Voorhees. I think I pronounced that right. Very, very obscure character that only real horror nuts know about. I'm kidding. Why did I even say that? You probably guessed that I was kidding. I'm getting hungry. Have you all had a healthy dinner, I hope? I'll look in just a second. All right, let's see. What did I do for Labor Day? I worked. Oops. Wait, is that the right thing to have done? I got this show ready and I worked on comic tropes. So, yeah, I just worked. Oh, French dip. I love French dips. When you were first starting comic tropes, what was the one thing that was most difficult, and what's your biggest tip for an aspiring comic YouTuber? Most difficult was maybe just sort of creating my own schedule and coming up with topics, because I had no real map at first. I didn't know exactly what I wanted to do. And then like my tip would be do something that you're passionate about, release on a regular schedule, have really clear, not cluttered thumbnails, and an interesting and hopefully brief title for your video. And then just, don't try to chase an algorithm. You'll never get it right long term. So just do what you're most passionate about. Ooh, pulled pork. Boy, I would love some of that. Yes. Well, we are laborers, so I get it. I labored as well. My job seems to think that's the point of the day. I have this week off. Nice. I'm doing one extra day at my day job this week so that I can take Saturday off. So it all balances out. It's just that, yeah, normally that would sort of be a day I'd be using to do comic tropes, but I think I've done enough in the last 2 weeks to get it ready. Trust me, I wish I could get it all done faster. This is a very research heavy one that I'm doing. Very research heavy. So yeah, that's the trick. Sometimes it just takes longer. I love that your channel is genuinely about love of comics. So many comics channels are just negative reviews. That would burn me out is all. I guess if that interests somebody and their audience, I guess more power to them. Overall, I really love comics. So I would like to focus mostly on the stuff that I enjoy and why I enjoy it, to potentially introduce new comics to new readers or help readers decide that there's another way of looking at it. Maybe like I would love to grow the audience. You know what I mean? That's what I would love. Oh, thank you. Hey, congrats. Paid off your truck. That's awesome, man. Congrats on having that equity. Take care of it. That's really lovely to hear. What should I eat? I don't know. It's weird. It's the end of summer, and I don't know why, but I've been dealing off and on with some really bad allergies. I'm starting to sort of feel it right now, actually. I'm like last week, I think I might have done the show kind of congested. It's hard to remember. But yeah, it's a very annoying feeling. Oh, while they won't be as long as what I did with Sal today, and my thanks again to Sal, and good luck with Terminator. I do have some more guests coming up for some interview stuff, but I'll try to always do a balance of, interview, news, reviews, and whenever possible, art. That's nice. A new Shadow Man? Wow. No, I won't have a booth or a table or anything like that. Maybe I will someday if I had a comic to promote. I don't think it's quite worth it for my show. I don't think I'd get my money's worth out of that for promoting a YouTube show. It's a little tricky there. Is it worth the fee? Oh, I have not been invited to be a guest at a Comic-Con. No. So I've been invited to panels, which might get me a free pass, but I've never been invited to get a table space. No. Is it worth it? That is a really tough question because conventions have gotten more and more expensive. Is it worth it? I really wish I had a nice, clean answer. even if it was as much as saying, like, if you've got this level of engagement or this many sales or something, I don't necessarily think if you haven't published a comic before and you only have like maybe one out or something like that, just one, I think it would be hard to justify a big convention like New York. Maybe a medium size, or certainly a small press convention. Yeah, you'll probably be able to make your money back and get the word out. But it's expensive to table at NYCC. That's really tough to say. Yeah, but it's been a long time, actually. It's been a really long time since I've done a panel, but I am going to do one this week. What's it called again? Hold on. I'm going to be at Rose City Comic Con this Saturday, and the panel is at 6:15 p.m. So it's last panel of the day, okay? Room E145 and E146, so it's like a double room. And I guess it's I'm speaking with the fine art crew about ways you can get involved in comics aside from just being a writer and an artist. So that's the idea there. And so yeah, I'll be on a panel. Hope it goes well. I hope so. It'll be fun no matter what. It'll be fun. Yeah, for as far as like speaking on a panel, I know I've done some in between, but the last one I can remember well is going way back to Small Press Expo. I've been on panels talking about doing 24-hour comic book day where you make a comic in 24 hours, and I've been on a panel with my fellow like indie creators in the DC area talking about self-publishing and how to do that. Wow, over 30 years. I'm glad that you still love it. I love it. I think comics are so versatile and interesting and cool. Anyway, I know I only laid a tiny amount of art out here, but I should probably get going. I'd love to just sort of draw this whole thing and just take questions, but it's been a long show, and everybody's got stuff to do, including me. Main one being I got to eat. But then I'm also going to like do some more work on comic tropes so that hopefully everything comes out this weekend. If it isn't this weekend, it'll probably be this coming week, okay? So like I'm close. I just there's a lot to do with editing and stuff. Hope you're doing well health-wise. I think I'm doing okay overall. Yeah, I'm taking some steps to make some improvements with everything, and one of those involves getting my house a little more organized so that we can set up the treadmill that we have, and yeah, I really am committed to. I just found out somewhat recently that the best way to lose weight is not necessarily the type of workout, but keeping your heart rate at a very specific level. And that's the way that you are more likely to burn fat and not muscle, is keep like your heart rate within this certain range. So I think that like something like a treadmill, and maybe eventually, if I'm lucky, maybe getting a small dog that's a walking buddy might be good for me. Good night, everybody. Yeah, okay. It sounds like it's a good time to wrap it up then. I appreciate that. Thank you to my guest, Sal. Thank you to all of you in the chat for helping make this a special evening. Thank you to all of the amazing people that made the comics that we talked about this week. You know, your Scott Snyders and Derek Kirk Kims and Rick Remenders and Robert Kirkmans, James Tynion, Michael Walsh, Fiona Staples, Brian K. Vaughan, Ryan North, Peach Momoko, Brian Hickman, Assad Ribich. Wow, that is a lot of comics that came out this week. Sometimes I don't like getting this much in a week, to be honest, because it feels a little overwhelming, but I liked so many this week too. I like them. All right. Take care, everybody. There will be a new Comic Tropes imminently. There will be a new trash movie bonanza on this channel in 11 days. And otherwise, I will see you next Monday. I'm looking forward to it. If you guys are in the Portland area and you go to Rose City Comic Con, please consider saying hello if you see me, and please consider going to my panel again Saturday, 6:15 p.m. room E145. Thank you. Have a good night. What do I'm going to do with this? No, you're getting this. Boom. Thank you.